I didn't know how to use the projector at all. So he helped me with that stuff and like talked to him and like how he runs his business and that type of stuff, which was very helpful. So.
Does he own that himself? Or?
No, I think it's a 501c3.
It's a 501c3.
Yeah.
He's the director of the
Yes.
501c3.
Yeah.
Other than Rolling Thunder, what are we doing for advertising?
So advertising, I found a spot in there you can do for free, so it's free. I did send them something today. It was a little bit longer. They may have to break it up, and because of the live events, I think we should do that little extra and pay for that spot in the Rolling Thunder for the live events.
Yeah.
So they may get a hold of me and say, this needs to be over here, which is fine by me. But yeah, there's a spot in Rolling Thunder that is free that you can.
I think at this point the theater needs, has the theater put together a board of directors? Because really that committee that you're working with now is only, their duty is to worry about the daily operations.
Right.
Not fundraise or whatnot. The suggestion had been made to them 3 times by myself about putting together a board of directors that could go ahead and do all that other work while they helped you get, work in the theater.
Right.
So do you know if any of that has happened?
I have not, because this is the first I've heard of it, so
Okay.
I have not done anything in that direction, and as far as I know, it
I
hasn't.
just wanted to know if they
Yeah.
had any discussions that you were a part of.
No, not that I'm aware of.
She's
no.
Well, you said they're
focused
gonna
on
have
just
a
running the theater right now.
Presentation. You said the theater committee's going to have a presentation on.
I think on October 1st, is that right?
Yes,
Something, yes.
I asked them to come in on October 1st after
Okay.
the last finance committee meeting, and so I gave them the items that were expressed at the meeting. It just said the council would like to see these. And so I was visited by the chair, who indicated that the 501c3 could not be discussed at the theater committee meetings, and apologized that I had been left out of the loop. And I said, I'm fine, I don't need to be in the loop, we just need to move forward and save the theater,
Right.
and have the plan of action for the future and do this. So they were going to meet and go over all this and proceed forward, and indicated that meetings have been taking place all summer regarding this. So this is where we're at. They're going to bring in, they're supposed to talk about these items at the council meeting on October 1st.
Okay. And I know there was lots of talk about 501c3 when I first began this, but I haven't heard anything since then. So I'm not sure where it's at.
I had a question, Marie, about kind of along the lines of that how we had asked about as far as the films, and the cost a year is $250 a week for 50 weeks, and then the revenue being the movie sponsorships for 25 weeks at $350. The if some of the movies cost $350, how can you account for that in the $12,500 if it's just budgeted at $250?
In the projected revenue?
No, in the expenses on the first page.
Oh, and the expenses?
Under the expenses, it's just 50 weeks as a straight up 250.
Right.
I mean, do you have a sense, like, is it 25% of the movies run into that 350? Does that need to be adjusted?
It could be adjusted, yes, it probably could be adjusted a little bit, but the last few movies they were only they've only been $250, so I'm hoping it stays that for mostly, but I have seen 350. I mean, I've got, I don't know, 10, 12, 14, something like that movies, and I think 3 of them were 350, something like that. So it's not a huge percentage. And the reason that we did the 25 weeks on the other page was because I didn't really want to shoot myself in the foot. Like, I would love to have 50 weeks of covered and, $350, like, covered, and we are good to go and every movie is paid for, but realistically, that's probably not going to happen. So.
Well, I mean, even if it's only 3 movies out of the 14,
Yeah.
that's almost 20%-ish.
Yeah.
So I think that just to try and have it be most accurate as possible, it's one thing to be a little shy on your revenue, but you can't be shy on your expense
Right.
expectations, because then you do shoot yourself in the foot because you're not budgeting for that
Budgeting for that.
higher amount. So I think that needs some adjustment,
Okay.
because that's a given known expense that you're gonna have every
Gonna
week
have.
if you're gonna be having movies every week.
Okay.
It's just the amount that's gonna vary on that. And the 50 weeks, is that because it's closed, it has the holiday film one
Right.
week and the holiday
And then
season, and then
July we're closed
the egg
for a week.
festival is closed
Yes.
for a week.
Yeah.
Okay. I had another question. Under the soda expense,
Yes.
I know you had talked before about changing to bottled Coke products
Yep.
instead of having the Pepsi fountain products. Is that all it is to buy all the soda for the year?
Yes. So each time I bought last time I did a huge order. Like it was a huge, so that I wouldn't have to buy again. And the most it was $277. And every other time I've purchased before that was like $190, something like that. So I don't have to, that's the other thing, is I don't have to buy, as often as you did with the fountain, because those boxes went bad quicker than the bottles of soda. So they last longer.
So on the films, the original budget that you had, you had put the $350 in.
Right.
And then the later budget, we got the $250. So now we're gonna do $250 for most of the weeks, but put $350 in for a
Right.
few weeks.
And I did, like Heather said, I just put 20%, that we just had it at 20%.
Do you, with the way the theater might, hopefully is heading with respect to live entertainment, more than quote unquote movies,
Yes.
do you do any surveys or have any idea on where folks come from for these live shows? Because if we plan on 2 live shows a month, there's a certain limited amount of finance that the people of Pittsfield can afford
Right.
to come to the shows in a certain number of shows. And granted, you vary the entertainment per se,
Right.
but it'd be interesting to know if you're attracting people from the surrounding areas.
Right.
Who's coming from St. Albans, who's coming from Newport, and that may affect how you advertise, where you put up posters or whatever for the live entertainment. We noticed it made a difference
Yeah.
with Bicentennial.
You
Right,
could
and
use
I-
a guest book.
Yes, I guess that's a good idea, I guess, but when I have posters and I take posters, I go to Waterville. I put them up at the Starbucks. I went to Colby College, I put them there. I went to Newport, not a lot in Newport, but I did do some in Newport, obviously in Pittsfield. So I definitely, for me, I'm willing to go and put them up there. And I think that maybe having a guest book or something and seeing where
You
they,
gotta find
just
out,
to
it's
put
one
it,
thing putting them there, but how many are you?
are actually attracting, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I could definitely
And
get
it'd be
like a
good
guest
to know and maybe kind of key in for the future what kind of entertainment you bring in.
book. Right. Well, I think the guest book's a good idea. You get their emails and then you can shoot them, yeah.
Yeah, so you could start an email list, so when you have something coming up
This
live,
is
you can
happening.
just hit send and everybody gets a nice email
Yeah.
saying what's going on. And I think that definitely, it's not as personal as talking to someone on a phone, but it's pretty close in this day and age.
Right.
So,
And as far as the live shows for the fundraising, just looking at the numbers and what was drawn in, it seems like the comedy nights
Mm-hmm.
and the Drive Me to Broadway, the Recovery Boys, but that was more specialized, I think.
Right.
And then the Spaghetti Dinner was a fundraiser too.
Yes.
But those types, and then the Elvis one were the highest grossing shows for the, or I guess the the Riff one was pretty popular too.
Yeah.
Those were the highest grossing ones, so there's any plans to have either some of those groups back or to have, shows similar to that?
Yep, actually, and I should have said before, is that we do have, in the works, another comedy show coming up. I just don't know if it's gonna be in November or December time. He's a local kid, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. Anyway, he does comedy. He doesn't necessarily want to come here, but I might just go around him and get his whole crew here, and maybe he'll come. Because I think having, well, do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do, that's right.
So, yes, we do plan on having some of the news, maybe not necessarily them, but in that reign of, you know, live events and that type of stuff. So definitely another comedy event. Riff, we could call and have him, and Jessie Mallory for the Elvis, she has contacted me and would like to come back, and she said it would be for a fundraiser.
Oh, nice.
So there's that as well. And also I have the Opry. They've played there before. They're out of Burnham. They're local. That's in the beginning stages. So there's always talk of stuff coming, and the Opry always does really great when they're here. They're very popular because they're Burnham boys, and
Yeah.
they come in and they rock the stage and they have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff, yes, it's always in the works and looking at how we can bring more different people in.
Right.
Yeah.
I know you're looking at different groups. There was a group, just a 3 or 4 person group in the tent at the Cheese Festival.
Rough Song.
Huh?
Rough Song.
Yeah.
That's the first group.
They were great, I thought, you know.
Well, I have his bass stand still, so I can hold it hostage. Use that for leverage to get them to come back. No, they're very, very popular. They play at a lot of the farmers markets down on the seacoast.
Yeah.
They do a lot of events and stuff down in that area. So I think reaching further afield too
Yeah.
can be beneficial. Like Bob goes to bluegrass every summer. You know, bluegrass is very popular. Jazz, you don't see many jazz
Right.
acts in the area or anything like that. That could be something different that people don't see all the
Yeah.
time. Could be something that could draw them in too. So.
That might be something to plan for the summer, either before or after the Egg Festival, kind of to keep things rolling.
Mm.
Maybe have a jazz festival for 4 days or
Yeah.
something like that. And I have some names, you and I should get together because I have some names of people that you can call and talk to that are going through what we want. They're in the middle of doing what we want to do.
Right.
They already are set up with a board of directors and everything, and they're in the renovation process, but still, I think we should get together.
Okay. Good with that.
And the Screen Dollars, that's the online advertising.
Yes, so that was their first check they sent, and I was like, oh, so I probably should figure out how to do it, 'cause I don't know how to do it. So I have to figure out how to do it, which I can't imagine it's that hard to ingest it, but I will work on it so that I can do it, because I definitely haven't been doing it.
What
So-
page?
Oh, the second page, halfway, 3/4 of the way down, just above the total line
Yep.
for the budget, Screen Dollars, it's online. Well, it's not online advertising, it's on-screen advertising.
Right.
For, it's a company in Bangor, right?
I think so,
And
yeah.
they contract with people, so like, I could try and contract with them to do my advertising for me.
Right.
And they would
At
send
the
out like a
theater.
USB
Like a
or send in a
USB.
file, and then that goes up on theater screens
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
over Maine, and people contact, and you get paid to do it.
Yes.
You know, it's like placing an ad in the Rolling Thunder, only it's going up on a printed
Right.
theater screen.
Yeah, they do that in Waterville.
Yeah.
They do it in Waterville, they do it in the Center Theater, lots of
Yeah.
different places.
Yeah, 'cause I just got a check for doing it for $332.
Yep.
How much?
$332.
There's no cost to us.
That's
It
what-
doesn't cost us.
That's
No,
what-
as long as we put, that came to the theater.
Yep.
Just a check to the theater. Yeah, I mean, it's free, it's
Nice.
really, it's free money. Like, all you gotta do is plug it in somehow.
Right.
I'll figure it out.
Well, it sounds like the advertising is not the issue, going to be the issue. I think you've got it pretty well covered.
And is it still, you're still allowed to have local places advertise with the Screen Dollars up there too? Or do you have to like tell them to go to Screen Dollars?
That I'm not sure of, but this,
So I know that was one question I had from
Yeah.
Patrick when I talked to him about it, was, you know, because Donna had just started getting like Kelly Printing and a couple
Mhm.
other places to put their ads up and stuff, and I was wondering if they kind of worked hand in hand, or if it was an either or.
so you mean like on the
That-
PowerPoint, I couldn't put like town stuff up?
I
And
don't
then-
know,
Oh,
that
you
was
don't,
my
okay,
question,
that
as
was
to
your
whether
question.
the screen dollars, if you had to sign a contract that you were only gonna show their ads,
Oh, yeah.
or if you could also have, cause that was additional revenue, you know,
Right,
paying
yeah.
to put things on the screen.
And I don't know that
so-
there is a contract, is,
I don't
well, I
know.
haven't seen it, so I don't even know if there is any kind of
Okay.
contract in that type of stuff.
Yeah,
I
just
have
wasn't
not
sure
seen
the
one,
nitty-gritty
so.
of how it worked.
You'll
Right.
have to
So are
check
you
into
going-
that, 'cause I
Yeah,
haven't-
well, I just got a cause I had no, I was just receiving these USB, and I'm like, I don't even know what's happening right now. And finally, when they sent the check, I got like their information, so now I can call them and figure that out. 'Cause I had
Because
no
that'd be
idea where
good
it was
if
coming
we
from.
could do our own, like you said, in PowerPoint for our local
Right.
businesses.
Which is what I do. I do that, and like when I get a
And
sponsor of
do
the
they
week, I
pay?
put them up there.
Do the businesses pay you a fee?
Right, so if I get them to sponsor a
Awesome.
movie, that's
Yep.
what I do for them. I put them up on my PowerPoint and show them that type of stuff.
I
Like,
see,
you know, put them
okay.
up there to advertise, and then in my window as well.
So what's happened is that advertising setup that we had locally is not being utilized right now. She's doing advertising for those that are sponsoring the movies.
Right.
And then we've got this new screen activity going on that we have not signed a contract for.
Right.
That I have seen or Jamie has seen.
Yeah, I have never seen the contract. They just keep sending me USB, so maybe that will be what I do tomorrow, call Patrick and ask him. He's my friend.
Can you talk a little bit about the staffing, budgeting, and what the duties of those staff people are that you would have, as far as, we haven't hired an assistant manager yet, correct?
No, I interview one tomorrow,
Okay.
so I'm in high hopes.
And what are their duties that augment yours, or are they just a substitute for you when you can't be there, or when you have time off, or how does that relationship work between the two of you?
I think the idea, well, for me personally, the idea would be that we work together, that we can split it and say, okay, whatever her strong points are that he or she can do, they do that, whatever strong points are. But we still work together at the same time. But, you know, like, I'm not great at Excel. It took me a long time to do this. Thanks, Catherine. It took me a long time, so it's not my strong suit. So maybe this person coming in, that is her strong suit, and she can teach me, but she knows how to do it, like finance stuff. She's been in the bank for years, so that type of stuff. So I think it's just to be able to mirror one another and teach and grow. I don't think there's anything specific. I can't say like, I'm gonna break this and give this to me and break this and give this to her or him. I think
Until
it's
after
just-
you've
right,
actually
yeah.
worked together.
Right, and at the moment now, so you're doing everything right now as far as staffing and the employee salary,
Mhm.
part-time employee salary is only 6 hours a week, so is that, and it's 52 weeks.
Right.
Those salaries are all for 52 weeks, even though the theater's only open showing movies for 50 because you have those other events, correct?
Right, yes. 'Cause
Okay.
we have, and the part-time employee now gets a little more hours, only because I don't have anyone to cover the night stuff with me.
Mhm.
And as of what I was told is that I have to have 2 people on in the evening. So she has to be there right now, so she is getting a little more hours, but, that will drop back once I have
Right.
the other hopefully another person.
So how many hours a week are they doing now? You're open 3 nights a week for movies?
5. Well, 4 and then Sunday matinee.
So that's 5 movies are
Right.
being shown a week
Yes.
for a minimum of what, 3 hours for the movie and opening beforehand?
Yeah, 3 to 4
And then,
hours.
are you
depending
doing
on-
cleaning afterwards, or is our cleaning company doing the cleaning?
Oh, no, it's us that cleans.
So
Yeah.
you're looking at 4 to 5 hours per shift?
She
altogether?
she gets about 16 hours, 15 hours right now, which like I said, once the other person, that will be cut back. Although she is my cleaning lady, that sounds terrible, but she comes in and cleans on Friday mornings for me for a couple hours. It was either her or I, and I feel that her salary's a little less, and it's probably smarter to have her do the cleaning rather than myself. So, and that's huge, that's a huge help.
And if you could pull things together, you might be able to keep that person
Yes,
part-time doing just the cleaning.
yeah. Well, that would be nice, but then that would still leave it still leaves the issue, this is the issue that we have. So I get 25 hours a week, and almost 20 of those hours are me working at night. So that only leaves 5 hours for me to do all the other stuff. that
Well,
I'm
this says
supposed
you
to do.
budgeted at 30, so you're not at 30
Right,
hours now.
well, okay, so 30, but still 10 hours
Okay.
to do, to do all
Right, to make all your phone calls, order
and
your
then just
films,
three
go
of those
talk
hours
with
are
people.
ingesting
Yeah.
and watching the movie that you have to do, or 4 of those hours, cause it takes about an hour to watch it, and that type of stuff. So, when you break it down, it's not a lot of hours to do this job. Especially if you're working every night, the night hours. So the goal would be is to keep her on, not just as the cleaning, but as her to take a couple of nights so that the other assistant manager and I can
Each
swap.
have-
Yeah, have a
right.
couple of nights off so we can take those hours and use them for the day.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
that makes sense.
For the rest of this year, are you set to make it through the end of the year?
I think if we continue on the road to getting the sponsors, then it shouldn't be an issue. And I know that we make it as of right now until December without, even if we didn't get all of them lined up like I wanted to, I think till December. So close, and then hopefully we can get more sponsors, and that takes care of that fills that gap a little bit.
Okay.
As
I could
Jamie,
help you with that too, Jamie.
Thank
as
you.
Jamie indicated, they're trying to get the sponsors, but the committee has discussed how they have the revitalization monies in the account, and they would use them if they had to, which they can transfer them over to keep open. But the goal is to raise enough money so they don't have to touch that.
So you and I have to have a meeting.
So, at the very last line on the 3rd page is theatrical account, $2,600 plus in it. So this money is to be used for theater productions. Is that the role of the theater to put on a theater production, or is that like a remnant from past budgeting?
This is a remnant from past budgeting, yeah.
There was an account that was set up that was turned back to the town, and so we said, yes, we'll take it, but to take it, we needed to dedicate it toward, like theater, real theater, plays and things. So we have that on the general ledger, just like we have, money for the skateboard park. It will always stay there until it's used.
Until it's used.
Yeah.
So if we were able to get a traveling theater company to come in and put on a show that could be used to book them, or would that be separate?
It's more to do our own, but it might, we have to look back at the original papers and see if that would cover it.
Mhm. Is there a drama group at MCI?
There is, I've contacted
Big article in the paper
MCI.
today, Boomerang stuff.
I've contacted MCI for not like even for the jazz band and a number of different things. But I was calling them and I was just advised to email them, so I do have all their emails now, which I will make that an effort, because I feel like they could use our stage, like
Right.
that type of stuff, yeah.
I mean, I just remember my kids did a little, and when I was in high school, I was a sport person. You had to choose theater or sport at the same time. But I know they did a lot of like 1-act plays,
Yeah.
or 1 or 2-act plays, and they did theater competitions and things like that. So I'm wondering if, and there was a lot of skits. So I'm wondering if the theater could actually host like a regional drama group or something like
Yeah.
that, or if that would even be feasible, because there's only 200 seats,
Right.
whether that would even work or not.
And the issue too that I come with this as well, like any of that type of stuff, is the dressing rooms.
Mhm.
Is that
Is
there's
what?
just the dressing
Just the
rooms,
dressing
we don't
rooms.
have that space right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, yeah, it would have to be cleaned out, and I don't know what to do with all that stuff, but, I mean, potentially we could put some things up so you couldn't see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it would be a tight squeeze for sure, without a doubt.
We could find out what used to be done when the Egg Festival had the pageant at the theater.
I'm pretty sure that Chimbro used
Put
to
a
put a
trailer
trailer
right out back,
out back there.
right up against
Yeah.
the, almost against the building.
Yeah, so literally they walk out the building into the trailer.
Into the trailer.
There used to be a group in town that did plays and stuff years ago, I don't know what they did, but
Hmm.
I forget the name of the Pittsfield Players, I think it was.
It was, yes.
No, I saw that line item and I thought, if that could be used in a way to leverage those funds in order to get some theatrical
Yeah.
groups in,
Yeah.
to then raise money
That would
for,
attract
attract some interest in the theater, at the theater, and then, try and kind of get the ball rolling there and
Yeah.
stuff, but sounds like there's a little roadblocks.
There's little robots, but.
Um,
Well, the good news is that from working on the budget consistently with many Excel spreadsheets, the gap is down to what it used to be in 2009-10 when the recession happened, and then the gap became much larger. So by
So we've closed the gap
Yes.
by how much,
Um,
roughly?
roughly it was 74, we're down to 34 by 40,000. So we're back to where we used to be.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that is
So
really good.
under the 2020 projected revenue, it has a line item, live events, and it has a flat $12,000. Is that just kind of an estimation of what you would get from each live event, or
Yes.
based on what was raised this year?
I think it was more based on what was raised this year, like leaving at that. So if we can, obviously I would like to add another one other into the month, like do one more show
Right.
and make that little extra money, then that would be a plus.
Because that was all raised year to date, or not even year to date, really
Yeah.
from
So I
March
think,
is when the
Yes.
first shows started, March, April is when the
6
first
months.
live shows started. So that's only March 2nd. So that's
Yeah.
only 6 months, not even 6, March to July, so that's 4
Right.
months, and then the spaghetti dinner. But it seems like there would be more potential there if there were 2 shows per month.
yeah.
But then you're not gonna, are you gonna take the summer off in order to not compete with the concert series in the park?
You have to, because you have to. I had a band come in, and they're an amazing band, and it was a flop, really, but there was if I was thinking, there was the night before, there was there was the concert, and then the night of the concert that I had planned was the football game.
Yeah.
So it's really hard, like, you can't,
Summertime is wicked because
Right, you
people
can't
are
compete
out
with
of
that.
town, or there's other
It's a
events
short
going
season, everybody's
on.
doing everything.
Yeah.
So
And then
I'm-
you have to be careful when the putter does activities and like that, because they only do their big grand stuff, or because they're not open all year round.
Right.
So they do these big things, and you can't compete with beer. That's not.
Where do they advertise that? Like, I've never seen any advertising.
I have never seen. Where did I
Just
see?
in the,
Like,
just
how
in the Rolling
are
Thunder.
you?
And on their little sign up
How are
there.
you able to kind of connect with those other things like MCI and there's like, do you have to find like all these bits and pieces of
Yes.
of information
And put it
all around the
together.
community to try and pull it
Yes.
together? Because I think that's one thing that we've talked about before is like having more community-wide calendar of
Yes.
events, and Heart of Pittsfield started that at one point.
Talk to Ron Watson.
But I don't know where that's gone. But Ron had mentioned that about having a community calendar so that people can plan around
Right.
other events. And really just looking at past events for last year,
Yeah.
like what weeks they
They-
fell
yes.
on. Because if you're already limited to not having shows from, when did the concert start, in July?
In July, but they're gonna start in June next year, I
So,
think.
so June to September. I
Right.
think the last one was the first week of September. So June, July, August, and September, there's 4 months where you're not able to have any shows that are gonna be able to compete.
Right.
So, it
Right.
seems like you're gonna have to build on the shoulders of that to have things for people to.
Right, so I think we can still have shows, I just don't think they can be music. Like, we can still do like a poetry thing, or the comedy night,
comedy,
and,
yeah.
stuff like that during that time. I just think we need to stay clear of having a band
Yeah.
and that type of stuff coming in during that time. But I think everything else we could still make happen, for the most part.
Any other questions?
The part-time employee that you have now, they're getting 16 hours a week.
Yes.
Is it a struggle to find somebody that would only be in there for 6 hours a week?
No, because I think that's what she was doing somewhere around there before. Between 6 and 10, I think she was doing something like that.
And how are...
Somebody who just needed a little extra
Right,
cash.
so she's putting a lot more hours in than I think she really truly wants
Would
to,
rather
but
be
she's
six.
she's sticking it out with me, which
Yeah.
I've been so grateful for.
And what's the volunteer situation as far as, I know the committee was doing a lot of volunteer hours and whatnot, is that still continuing? Were you able to contact some of the people that were listed through the survey that we were
If the
done?
truth be
I think
known.
there was like 20 people that said that they wanted to help.
Right.
Has anyone followed up on that?
No, they have not. And the committee has subsided a little bit, they're starting to come back around a little more. I did find 2 girls, at MCI, the Key Club members, I sign a paper so they get their hours for the community service, volunteers. So, I actually just have to call one of the girls and she is ready to do volunteer work. And the other one is in soccer season, so she just has to wait for that.
Yeah.
But so I have reached out to them to do that and they're really excited about it. So that is I would love to have more for backup and that type of stuff. So.
And do you have like onboarding procedures? Is there anything that was given to you as far as training volunteers and, getting them up to snuff as far as like food safety and serving food and those types of things as far as having volunteers in there that aren't staff or even training staff
Right.
for the coming on?
No, but fortunately, I have owned my own business. I have worked in the food industry most of my life, and I've done all those things, so I know most of the rules and regulations. So I think that I need to write that little procedure handbook, and so that we have it, and so if I can't train, the assistant manager trains and has that book to go by. I just haven't had time to put it. I have put together a directions for everything. That's the name of my book. Things so that people can look and say, okay, this is what I have to do.
Okay.
But I have not been able to sit down and
Well,
do
that's the
that,
beginning.
that
That's the
training.
beginning of it.
But no, I think it's essential, and it would have been nice for that to happen for me.
Right.
Like I would, I've stumbled along this process truly,
Yeah.
but I think I'm coming into myself a little bit. So.
You may have been stumbling, but you've done a great job.
Well, I've definitely stumbled a lot. But I feel as though, like growing
are
with
the
the theater,
stumbles getting
that's
smaller?
what I'm doing. I'm growing with the theater.
Yeah.
And so I just want to see it succeed. My first movie was there, E.T. Like I would it was in that theater.
time ago.
Yes, it was, see?
Well, that's something too, is that like the nostalgia around movies, and maybe it's not a live show, maybe it's nostalgia night. It's a movie that's readily available on DVD or whatever, but seeing it in the theater, like this
Right.
past year was the Star Wars
Right.
anniversary and the Wizard of Oz anniversary, and there's a lot of things like that coming up that it might be good to kind of look ahead and see which movies are going to be coming up with anniversaries.
Well, I do know, because the Bicentennial did donate to us, and their only request was that they wanted Rocky Horror Picture Show at Halloween. So we are doing
At midnight?
that.
At midnight?
So I'm doing that for the whole week, and not just on, so.
Is it a midnight show?
No, I can make it that though if you want.
Well, isn't
Are
it-
you gonna come?
Isn't it supposed to? Yes, of course I will.
Dress up, wear boas, and come.
My
So, yeah.
daughter-in-law and
Yeah.
granddaughter would love it.
There are some things that we are doing, so. And, if people have, presented things to me, customers, and, this one woman, she's like, I want more horror movies, and I said, if you can bring 10 people with you to each one, I'll do it for you.
Or even like musicals,
Yeah.
like Sound of Music.
The
And, I mean,
old-fashioned,
there's certain movies that will draw a crowd, even though people have seen them hundreds of
Sometimes
times.
Dirty Dancing.
Yep,
Seven Brides for Seven Brothers,
yeah,
Oklahoma.
yeah, there's lots of,
And I'm
Cult.
giving away my age now.
you know, not in a bad way cult, but
Yeah,
like
but
cult
yeah.
following.
Those are good movies.
For sure.
I love musicals. Yeah, I think that would be great.
Mhm.
You know, have one week be all musicals.
Yeah. The other thing I had thought about too is so that we can connect with the community and like the high school is doing like a foreign night movie. Like
Mhm.
having,
Oh, yeah.
going to MCI and asking, like giving them like a list of foreign movies, like pick one out and we'll play it, you know, kind of thing. So I have thought of that type of thing.
Or even do that on Facebook, like
Yeah.
put it
And
through a
get
Facebook
NCI to
poll.
sponsor them.
Because that will get people interacting with it and say, you know, in the month of November, we're gonna have a foreign film night and this is what you have to choose from and have people go in and vote.
Right.
You know, and then
Yep.
that kind of like gets them excited about it, they have some buy-in as to what's playing and that type of thing.
That's a good idea too. So the ideas, they're there, like the ideas are there to like improve and pick this place back up. So-
Honestly, I can live with the gap as it is there. I feel better about that than at the 70 or 80, 90, whatever it was last 2 years, how it was building. Like how I said, my biggest concern is that building, if there isn't a plan in place to do something with the building or reorganize in some way, then, you know, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
It
I
just
agree
doesn't
with
make
that,
sense.
yeah.
You know, so that has to be in place
Mhm.
for me to vote on it.
Okay.
Wow, and who should be putting that plan together, because our theater committee doesn't have anyone educated
I'll start
in
putting it together. I'll do what I have to do.
what has to be done first, or what you think would
I
be
can-
priority
I
projects.
have until October 1st, right?
It sounds like there needs to be more communication between you and the committee as far as working cohesively on some type of plan to move forward with it,
Yeah.
whether it's going through the nonprofit process or finding a nonprofit to work with or under for a little while, or something along those lines. But it sounds like there needs to be more cohesive work.
I think there was a
done there.
lot of time taken off during the summer type
Yeah,
of thing, and I
everything
think it
happens
kind of
in the
like,
summer.
and that's where the,
Time to
not
regroup.
necessarily miscommunication,
Yep.
but lack thereof.
Yeah, well, fall's a good time to regroup and, you know, we have a short period of time that a lot of information has to come and coalesce into some
Yeah.
type of a plan in order to move forward, because I don't see, you know, as much work as you've done on this, and we appreciate the work that you've done on this and what you're doing now, but I don't see this as a viable way to keep running the theater if we don't have a plan in place for the building as a whole and
Right.
what's gonna happen to that building, whether it's renovations, whether we do, you know, a big expensive project with it or what. So,
And even for me, my biggest concern is the roof. Like, everything else can,
Yeah.
it can kind of go on hold, but that, I agree, that roof, we need to figure out how to take care of that, how to make that happen, without a doubt. So,
that's where I'm at.
Any other questions?
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for all your
Jamie,
work.
for coming in and presenting.
you're welcome.
Next will be the police.
So you have your packet in front of you with the police budget, communications, and animal control. And so that one starts out laterally,
This one.
by landscape.
Initial request work?
Yes.
Okay.
So would you like to say anything about the budget, Pete?
Well, I met with the town manager yesterday, so we went over it and we discussed some of the different items, and did you get my changes, Catherine?
I did to the vehicles, and so that's not really the discussion tonight, but I did put them on the capital. So you'll be all set with that.
So I don't really have anything unless you want to bring stuff up, Catherine, or do they
Yes.
have specific questions?
So we had a variety of little things we were gonna fix or move around, so that's fine, and we'll do that. plus the creation of a new account that will keep track of the lodging and the meals, so that's fine. And we can put that throughout the budget, not just police, and that will make it clearer as to what's going on. There's a variety of additional items that would have come up that are attached to the operations budget. The operations budget has some increases throughout in different places. There'll be an additional vehicle, so we need more vehicle maintenance monies, and that account is over anyway, so that's a common sense item. There were a few other areas. I think the police chief would want to talk about these additionals.
Are we going through the initial expense?
Yeah, we can,
Like
you
we
can go
did?
through
Okay.
page by page if you'd like. through
The
oper-
first thing I had a question about was the
Are you on the
personnel.
line items?
Yeah, the first page,
Okay, hold on.
0105.
Hold on one second. Yep, go ahead.
It says, there's a note here that says the SRO and admin position should be in this number. So is it already in there, or do we need to add it to it?
Yeah.
That's just a note, we're not doing all the pay as of yet, but yes, I know the SRO needs to be in this budget. It has its own line so that we can show the school it's an in-out, so it's further down in the budget.
So
He's
it's
just
not
saying, don't
included.
forget it, so we would have the SRO in here.
I just
And-
put it as a reminder.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not included in that 300?
Correct, because we do all the pay afterwards, once we find out what we can afford. So we're still compiling the budget, because people are still bringing in figures. We've gotta stop.
So these
Well-
numbers right now aren't real numbers.
They're the numbers from 2019.
Those
In the
numbers,
first column, and so you're,
Yeah, everybody's budget that you've seen so far, the staff does not do the personnel services, and put in, he's just put reminders.
oh, I
that's
see,
exactly what I
okay,
was gonna
so,
say.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you do those, Catherine?
Correct, and we do those, once we get everything compiled and we see exactly where we're at, and then we do different spreadsheets to see how it affects the budget and the tax rate.
so where does it appear, you said it appears later on, the SRO?
Yeah, in the budget in your book, there's a line for SRO. He's got it all combined on his, this is his spreadsheet.
Okay, but on this spreadsheet, we don't have the SRO.
Correct,
number.
it's in the budget, and it's been in all your
it's in the
expenditures.
budget figure.
Yeah,
It's
this is
just
his
not-
spreadsheet,
Right.
like he created a spreadsheet and put everything
Okay.
together.
Is
Okay.
the district going to pay for part of the SRO program?
They have been, yes, we'll need to negotiate another contract.
Okay.
Does that come due at the end, they're contracted through the end of the year?
It'll be
so
the
we
end
need
of the
to do
year,
another
yeah.
one for
We just
January?
need to have the program, it's reestablished, and things are going well, we just need to let it go well for a while longer. The school wants to bring their own language in, so then we'll have to talk back and forth on the language, and then cement the deal.
Okay, and when are we looking at doing that? Do you know?
Yeah, we need to let the program continue on, because the office is working full-time now and everything, and so we just
And we
need,
have to get through the budget.
we need to go a bit further and let everything, continue to go on good. And then the school's gonna come up with their additional language that they want added to the SRO agreement.
Well, they were paying 80, was it 80%? They were
Over
paying,
10 weeks, right?
they were paying 80% of the budget for the SRO.
I don't think it was quite that much, a little bit under that,
Okay.
yeah, but
So-
close.
So we don't know what they're willing to pay for after December.
I think it'll be probably the same.
Well, they have it in their budget already.
It's in their
until
budget
next
through
year.
July,
July.
through June 30th, so they're on the July through June.
So the
Did I
pay
start out
isn't
as
where
a
How's that
No.
how's that gonna work? Because they're running a school year and we're running a fiscal year.
Yeah, that's always been an issue, yeah.
So,
80%, that's what I thought.
At some point,
How does that
as we get
work?
closer to the end of the year, we'll sign a multi-year contract, which will then make the figures clearer. We'll have to do estimates and everything. Or put in, it will be the rate that's set by the town, if they're agreeable with that. we've been very reasonable. They were very happy with what they got charged for the second quarter, in the first quarter of this year.
Yeah.
They said, are you sure that's enough? And it was all of our figures, and we said yes, and they were very happy.
Good.
So the, down under maintenance, I'm assuming MV is meant motor vehicle.
Yes.
The $4,200 difference, that is directly attributed to the fourth cruiser.
It's partially because of that,
Repairs.
and it's also because we've had high repairs. We're doing really good in all the line items for the pay and everything. We're not over in the overtime or anything, and there's only a couple of line items that I'm over in. One of them's maintenance, just because we've had some high repairs this year
Okay.
on the fleet.
Do we have couple older cars, is that why, or?
Yeah, but we have a pretty good rotation. Catherine and I talked about it yesterday, and you know, we have the fourth cruiser, and then you know, so we've got extra in for that. But I think the biggest thing is we got nailed with, I don't know, 3 or 4 pretty good service calls. We had one last week where the third oldest vehicle was the transmission. When we went to back up, when, I don't know if we call it the rear transmission or what, but luckily it was under warranty. It's got 96,000 miles on it. So
Just under.
that would have been a hit.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it would have cost for a transmission, but it's
A lot.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
$3,000.
Most people
I think it's close
don't
to
put
4.
in a new
How much?
transmission,
Close
they
to
buy a new
4?
car.
I think so.
3 to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been a major hit. But, so that's the,
So we've had a
Another
variety of
reason.
items have happened to the vehicles.
Okay. The, and then under build and plant, was there supposed to be a change in there? It says 100% difference, but there's no change in the budget request. Was there extra things that were planned as far as the building maintenance in the police
Just for-
department, or?
painting and things like that.
It'd be a 0.
But that's,
Yeah.
it's just nothing beyond what you already had in
It
from
was the
last
same,
year?
yeah.
Okay, so that's just.
So the only thing we've had time to do is
Spreadsheet error.
my office, and that was done by 2 employees.
Okay.
And the only thing that was expended was, you know, for materials, for paint and so it was.
Get those key clubbers down here, do some.
Well,
do some
we were gonna
community
have the county, the prisoner, the program when they're released from the prison, but that didn't work out,
Well, no, well,
timing wise.
right. And it's still an option, but the sheriff, I've talked to him about it a couple of times. But when you go to start painting in that station, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So,
In the, you mean in your offices?
yeah, like we just did my office, and it was quite a lot of work. But, so that was, we can do a
At least the
little,
townspeople, when they come in, can see that things are getting done.
That is true. You have to be careful on the paint smell because you have a number of people that
Yeah.
feel sick when the paint, you know,
That's-
when
I'm
they
one of
paint
them.
it. Yeah.
if we can get a little done next year, that's my goal. And then maybe we won't be able to get it all done, but if we can chip away at it, you know, a little each year over the next 2 or 3
Might get
years.
some key clubbers during the summer, if they're around, and not on vacation or have a short work schedule. The older kids can fulfill their community service during the summer,
Yeah.
which would be
Or
good.
town councils.
Do what?
Yes.
Grab a brush, painting party.
You may not like what you see.
Page 2, under contracted services, under printing and forms. Is there a, like a badge, I know before, I think you had said something about the animal control forms or something, that they like buy a bunch one year and then it lasts for like 3 or 4 years, then you have to buy a bunch again. Is that part of that? Do we have business cards for the officers already? Is that more to make it easier for people to be able to contact them?
We only had business cards made up so far for the SRO, but I talked to the town manager yesterday about that, and there's a program, what's it called, Catherine?
There's an online one, Vistaprint, that you
That's
You can get certain
$9.99
deals,
for 500.
$9.99, yeah. It
Yeah.
works out really good.
And the minute you order, they send you a coupon,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an option, I mean, I'm always trying to look into any type of grant I can get or money saving.
Yeah.
So if we can save a few bucks, it's worth it.
We've been able to use those for a number of departments. I think police-wise, he wanted to put something on the back, so there'll be a little extra charge.
Oh,
A lot of
it's
Still
minimal.
less.
It's
Have we-
minimal. You
still
can do
less.
full
Have we-
color, you can do two-sided.
A lot
you
of
can do
Have we
departments,
talked
They
with
put
Kelly
like the
Printing?
tow companies
Yeah,
on the back.
that's
And
where they got them.
Place
It's
where you
pretty
put the
expensive.
accident number, if someone got
They're
in an accident.
expensive?
Yeah.
Because
No,
for
this
black
depends, easy
and
to work
white
with, it's easy to
card,
get your information on there.
it's not.
so.
Yeah, I got the bill for the SRO. He went and charged them, I would have said, stop, let's do something else, but it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, if you have them custom printed locally. So where does our admin person fall in? Where does that?
Up to the top.
First page.
Where?
It's within the regular personnel services, it's not a
I
separate.
mean, like the pay and everything.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'd be in that first.
Being the
Okay.
personnel.
Yeah, he's reminded me it'll be up here in personnel.
So that 2020 figure is really not the 2020 figure, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Because that's the part the town will fill in, and then once we add everything together, then we figure out what the percentage increase can be. We do all these spreadsheets. And then we have to estimate out the workers' comp, the health insurance, which we've called on and don't have an answer on yet, the unemployment part, and the departments can fill out their travel, mandatory training, their dues, and their uniforms,
Okay.
which has been done.
Has any progress been made, Pete, on the hiring of another officer that was budgeted for this year, or an officer ACO type position?
Well, the answer's not really. We did advertise within the full-time ranks for a person to fill that role back in, I don't know when it was, within the last couple of months, but nobody was interested in it
Okay.
at this time. So that's a,
So now we can advertise out in the community.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean, we still are, the town manager and I talked yesterday about the waiting period for the
He has a,
SRO.
he has another idea here about how to change that into another position,
Okay.
which can either be discussed now or wait a bit.
Well, can you give us the outline? An outline.
I was gonna wait.
I know, it got a little complicated yesterday, that's why I was saying, I sent them an email and said, we're gonna work on a chart, which of course wouldn't be done today.
so I'm just looking, the contractual services was $6,307, that is for our ACO, currently as contracted, without any, accounting for the full-time officer / ACO position that we added in the budget
Right.
for 2019. That's
That-
just the,
That's what we had this year.
right,
Yeah.
Right, and so hypothetically, if we had just say we had a new officer / ACO / detective on board, I would still want to try to have a budget for Connie's our ACO now, Connie Cummins. She does a great job, but just as more of a backup, if she's gonna be willing to do it. Right now, we have her on I guess a personal service
Salary,
agreement for
yeah.
$150 a week. And some weeks, some weeks she isn't as busy and sometimes she's swamped. So I think overall it works out pretty good, it averages out. And like I said, she does a good job, she's very passionate about her work. She services, I don't know, 4 or 5 towns, something like that. So she's spread pretty thin, but to have her as a backup would be, the reason that money's still in there. I don't think we'd spend half of it, maybe not even a third of it.
So right now, there isn't a police officer that's doing that, we have contracted service with this
Correct.
woman.
Connie's
She, she does not want to do it full-time?
well,
She does it at times.
she's not a police officer.
Oh, the ACO has to be a police officer?
No. No, but last,
This is the
Well, you have to
contract.
remember, I wasn't here
no, I
last
was
year.
just thinking the same thing. I was like, oh,
So,
you
I
weren't here
mean,
last
if
year.
we have, do we need another officer, is, I guess, the question.
That's the answer is yes, and that, we were trying to figure out how to do that, so we put 30,000 in to start at half year, because the increase was too big to add in everything.
Okay.
So 30,000 was in for a half year, it's not, the position's not yet hired, although it was done legally through the union first, and no one was interested, so now it can go out to the public. But yesterday, the police chief had a different idea, you know, how we might move things around.
I'll wait until you get it all figured out.
That's why the chart would be helpful.
I actually did write up a little flow chart today. I mean, it's not very fancy, but
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
I didn't
It
give it.
doesn't have to be fancy.
No,
We
simple
just
is-
have to
simple is good.
understand it.
Right.
So did we want to continue? We were on
Yeah.
contractual services and the police here.
What are the other, it's 500, so there's a 500% increase in printing forms for the ACO.
Okay, and ACO.
It went from 100 to 500.
Where?
Line
We're
25
down on
dash
ACO
10,
now.
Page 3.
Printing, oh, I'm on page 2.
Yeah, that's not ACO.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
that,
then
this
the public
is his
safety,
own little
animal
form
control.
here. So let's see where the 500% is.
We,
Well,
I
we,
thought it
100
was-
to
we
500.
had a lot of forms printed out for like, say, evidence receipts, you know, they're in like, triplicate or double, you know, with a copy.
Where you have to have
You know,
multiple
there
copies.
were different forms that we went to Kelly Printing in Newport to do, so I think that was, I
Well,
think
does
that's
that
what that
belong
was.
there under animal control, or does it belong out in
No, that may have been, Catherine and I talked about
the
that
printed
yesterday.
form for the regular department?
That may have, I'm not positive, I'll check on it, but that should have gone to maybe a different line item, I'm not positive. That makes sense.
So, are we on page 2 or 3?
Let's stay on page 2 and finish that.
Oh, I thought it was great.
I was on 3.
I think you skipped the 3, unless you want to finish 3.
Well, there wasn't anything at the bottom of 2. There was just
Well,
the
I'm
supplies.
confused, where is
So on
the,
line 3, it
Under
says,
contract services.
under
which page
contract
now?
services, line 3, down to the bottom,
25-10.
line 2510. Do you see it there?
What page out?
3.
Page 3.
Okay, I see what you're
It went
talking
from
about.
100 to 500, but it's in the ACO.
There's no percentage,
Well,
okay.
there's no percentage there, but it's under animal control and public
Okay.
safety, so I was just wondering if that was all attributed to the ACO and forms and things that they need, or if that was maybe a duplicate cost for the larger increase up above under contracted services on page 2.
That's a good question, because that's a 400%.
well, that's what was confusing me.
Yes, yes.
You've got 2 contractual services.
Okay.
Well,
I'll
it's different
check-
departments.
I'll check with the,
Because the ACO is treated separately from the public safety and police.
There's no way to just have one contractual services?
Well, the ACO,
For the
we have to have a
police
separate
department?
budget for the ACO by law,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
so we have to keep that separate. It doesn't mean everything has to be separate, but it might be better to keep it separate from police. So yes, we'll have the police chief check on what's the big increase in there. And that was confusing because he kept saying 500, and we were thinking percent, but it's $500 it went up to, which is a $400 increase.
I think the forms that I just talked about, I probably put them under, you know, a different line item
Okay.
by mistake. And that's probably I'm guessing that's probably what it
Okay.
is, but I can check
We
on
can
that.
check that
Okay,
out.
so maybe that's there, but it just belongs
Right.
elsewhere.
Okay.
There's
yeah.
like forms on
That's a
page
good
2
point.
also.
Yeah, because the one on page 2 has 1,500 for this year. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's adding in the business cards. The business cards that the SRO got, I think it was over $50. So if you multiply that all out by all the officers,
Were
that's
they
where
multicolored?
they weren't
glossy?
that fancy. So that's where I pointed out, we could use the online service that works really good for $9.99 if we didn't need to have any specialty things. Even if they have the backside, you just pay an extra fee.
It's like
So I think
$4.
that's what he was talking about, and he's added in probably to update some of his forms, because some of them are old, like they're courier type print.
Right.
Okay.
And we did change a couple of the ACO
Yes.
forms around, so that might be it.
Yeah, I remember you had talked about it before, that you had like a box of them and that's all that was left and that you needed more, so. It just seemed like a lot.
So this would be a good time to talk about 2505, which has a major increase due to this new program, which is an additional. And the additionals are gonna be done later, but they're really mixed into the budget, so it's good to discuss them. So this is a program to update policies and have the offices use an online training program.
Could you go back to,
Are you on 3 or?
It's on page 2, right under the contracts and rents, right by that when we were talking about the business cards. There's a big increase of $4,380 under 2505.
right,
So that was a new item he was gonna put in there to update their policy book, their SOPs, which to me looks like they're back from the 90s, from what I remember in another town. They look similar to another town's.
so that's this additional request form, the first one?
Yes,
About
yes.
the special. This sounds like something that should be done to standardize things and to streamline some of the training, to make sure that the training officers are receiving is standardized from officer to officer.
I did have a question. How does that fit in with this J program that you have now?
JPMA,
Yes, that's a nice program that the officers get updated on the different procedures.
the JPMA is a program where the officers do their online training. JPMA. I don't know what it stands for. But with this program here, we can do our training, the same training. It's accredited by the Maine Criminal Justice Academy, and it's a lot cheaper.
Okay, so we could actually drop that
Yeah,
JPMA later on, once we get this started.
we're currently paying $75 an officer for JPMA. If we go to this, I believe it's $45 an officer.
And does
So-
that also keep track of, like electronically keep track of a file, of who's done what training for their certifications all in one spot? And
So I brought this, Catherine referenced it, right? It's like an anchor. But these
Like
policies
our
are
code.
very, they're probably old, antiquated, but we're not unique. There are a lot of departments. So at the chiefs meetings and at different forums, over the last year, I guess, I've learned about this power or this Durago safety. And the chief in Winslow is one of the, works for the company on a part-time basis. So I talked to the chief at Clinton, they're going to it, Fairfield, I think it's Orono or Old Town or both. Bunch of departments down south, York and Southern Maine departments. And basically what the town manager said is exactly right. They'll update all your policies, it's a 3-year contract, so you pay, like I said, or she said, $43.80 a year. It updates all your contracts. And I've also built in the Power DMS, which is a software program. So all the policies can be put online. If I send out a policy, say to Heather, and it's gonna tell me, it's gonna give me an electronic signature when she's reviewed it. I can send out updates, I can keep track of training, it does all kinds of stuff. From everything I've been told, it's a fantastic tool. And they will sit down with us, they'll make sure the policies are all up to date. And I put a thing in here that, let's see, where the heck is it? I think it, oh yeah, so on the JPMA, we're paying $75. I think it's $30 for this program. So we'd save substantially there. And well, this is what it was. The cost of this program per officer per year would be $258. So when you think about having your policies up to date, lawsuits, things like that, it's, I think, well worth it. It'd be a great program.
Does this program reduce, is it mandatory training? Would that be reduced if we're not using the JPMA program?
No, we still have to do, we would still have to do the same amount of training that's mandated by the police academy. It would just be from a different company.
But it would be in that contractual cost
Correct,
versus its own line item?
You could
Yeah.
get to the point of deleting the
We would
value
drop-
of the cost of the
Drop
other.
the other one.
Yeah, we would delete JPMA.
And is the JPMA funds, is that found in the 525 mandatory training? Because there was no increase for that, even though we might have more officers. It says specialized training, MCGA, FBI, NNA. Is that still other things?
Those are just for organizations that I belong to. That's just dues.
It says mandatory training.
Well, the member dues is the next line
Yeah.
down.
Which
This is
it?
where we're going to reorganize this.
Yeah, because
Some of the line items aren't always in whack, and that's
Yeah.
what Catherine and I talked about yesterday, and she mentioned a few at the beginning.
Trying to straighten out what.
Yeah, I mentioned taking the food and the lodging and making, he had a good title for that. And then the mandatory would really be in the mandatory, and the other would be in the, regular trainings that help them would be in the regular training account. Travel would be in the right place, and the membership and dues would be in the right place instead of having training posted to them, at the numbers.
so we
that are
could
being
kind of
used.
get everything together
Yes.
instead of having
Yeah, it's scattered, it's.
the same account on three
Yes.
different pages. 'Cause
Correct.
that's confusing.
Yeah, it is.
So is the
Okay, I'm just
JPMA cost
making sure
right
I'm not
now,
going
is that
crazy.
encapsulated in the $4,000 of mandatory training?
Well, in this cost here with the 4380,
Yeah.
that would include the power DMS, the Durago safety, and that would include the training for the officers.
I think the question is, where is the JPMA?
Right.
Did
line
you
item
take
right
it
now?
out, or did you leave it in?
Oh.
And then do we need to take it out?
Well, I'll have to check that.
Okay.
All right, so what we're gonna do is have 1 year's worth of training in there with one company. That's the intent, so that's on the list to look at.
The other thing is with all of this is, what my hope is to seek accreditation through the Maine Chief of Police Association. And they've come out with this new accreditation program. I don't think there's national accreditation programs, which are very, I guess, expensive, they're time consuming. I don't know if we have the manpower to do something like that. But this is kind of like a half of one. And we would have to get all our policies and procedures up to date. So I kind of have a two-pronged thing in my head, like, I've talked to the chief at Winslow, and I said to him, hey, my idea is to, this year, 2020, is if we get approved, get all the policies up to date, which would probably be done I'm guessing, in a short time. And then the following year, go for the accreditation, because if we get the policies and procedures all up to date, it's going to be easy to do the accreditation. I don't remember which department it is. It might be Old Town or Orno, but I think they're gonna be the first one. I don't think anyone's been accredited yet through this new program, through the main chiefs.
Do we have an idea what the insurance savings would be? It says 10%. Is that
I think that's,
over the town's policy or just the attributive part to the police
I
department?
think it's through Maine Municipal.
But is it just the 10%, would that be overall because it's considered part of the town? Or is it just the part that would be attributed to the insuring the police department? You know?
So Maine Municipal Insurance savings of 10%. You just have to double check, Pete, to see, is that the MMA workers' comp? Is it health insurance? I assume it's workers' comp, but right now we don't know. It could be public officials liability or police liability too. So workers' comp or police liability. So we need to know which one it was.
And does it apply just to the police?
Yes, I assume it would, but
Yeah.
we need to know.
Yeah. It sounds like that additional program would be beneficial, you know, in the long run, both short and long run.
Oh, yeah.
Well, right now, the policies are not on the computer system, so that's why they haven't been updated. So you'd have to go in and type them all, and you could PDF them in, but they're so old that I don't think it will work well. So we need to do this.
Pete, are
Get
these
them updated.
policies tailored to Pittsfield, or are they general policies that anybody can use, or?
I believe they start off as general ones, but they'll sit down with you and tailor them to the respective department. That's what the chief in Clinton told me back a few weeks ago, or whenever it was we started talking about this, when I really started diving into this.
So that was one project that sounded very good to be done for a number of reasons.
So the cost is $43.80 per year, and it's a 3-year contract.
Yeah,
So that would be committed for the next 3 years as
yes.
part of the department.
So then if your policies were updated and you had budget issues in 2023, could you just do a different type of program? We wouldn't, once we had the program, do we know if we can continue to use it and just wouldn't get the updates? Or is it proprietary and we could not use it?
I mean, I think after the 3 years, we'd have to sign another contract for 3 years. And we would, because we want our policies, things change, we want our policies to be as up to date as we can to mitigate any type of, liability.
This saves you from having to do it, because they know what
Also,
they are.
and that's what, if I had all the
In the long
paperwork.
run, there'd be a savings.
Right, if I had all the paperwork here that I was sent, it says exactly what you said, that the chiefs and a lot of the departments, they don't have time to be doing these policies and
That's how you
procedures
do
all the
24 hours a
time.
day,
Right,
that's how
It's-
often they change, it's like
it's, and a lot of them are old and, it's just, so this will ensure that going forward, the policies are, at least our town, not all towns are gonna do this, but the towns that do this are gonna have updated policies.
So the information that's generated as far as like the training records and things like that, do we have to continue paying? I think Catherine was asking,
Yeah.
but do we have access to that whether we continue with the program after 2023 or not? Do you know what I mean? Like, does it live in their server
Oh.
and then we have
I
to
see.
continue a subscription to have access to it? Or does it become our information
Right.
that
I
we
see
can
what you mean.
download at will and have copies?
It's good to
I think
know
what
that.
she said, even if we
I
had
would think
access
it would
to it,
become our property.
we're not gonna
and-
get updates, so the policies are just gonna lapse again.
Right, but we
Right.
haven't gotten updates since the 1990s
Right.
and it's worked fine. I'm not saying that we should continue this way.
Right.
But that's also, I mean, it's also you're depending on it to keep your training records, so it's not just the policy updates,
Right.
which I imagine there's small parts and pieces that might change, but that whole manual's not gonna change in 3
Correct.
years,
Yeah.
I would hope.
But as far as the training and
But
whatnot,
the training
though,
records is the important part to be able
Right,
to have
and
access to.
you'll be able to print reports. I would,
I think,
in the fire industry, they have plenty of programs like that, and you print reports. So the training records could be, and should be printed off at the end of each year and put in the personnel file for that person.
But now it needs to get
So-
done.
I'll check on that, but I think we'd probably have access to it, and like I have to certify, I just have to sign one line certifying that everyone did their training. And when you check on JPMA now, it'll show you for each officer, and I'm sure this is similar. So even if we stopped using it after 3 years, we would know that everyone completed the training for at least the 3 years prior to that. And then any other training, like say firearms training, whatever other training, we would keep a record of those.
So you can't import other records to have everything in one spot, like in one file for an officer.
Well, right now, in JPMA, it just keeps a record of what you do in JPMA. It doesn't account for anything else.
Then you have a record of your regular bureau, your regular hazard communications, because that's not in there. Then you got your firearms, and then you've got the other courses that they take.
Okay.
So all
you
these
still have
other
And a lot of
separate-
those programs do not mesh.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, all the other collateral training, call it, that you have to do, we could put into this system.
So that would be very easy for them, because right now what is happening is we have all the departments, they have their training, we have a master Excel spreadsheet, which has everybody on it, then we have to enter each of their training, and the trainings come in not in a regular fashion, because they're done by department when everybody can get together to make sure everybody has things, and other people in the departments take extra training, so then we have to add those to the spreadsheet. So this is like a living document that changes every month, and you have to keep track of it. And then for the fire department, there needs to be 2 sets of folders, and each of the trainings needs to be in their folders. Police is similar to that. The other employees do not need to have it all in their personnel files. We just make a big training file.
Okay.
But there's a lot of paperwork involved.
Sounds like it.
yes, there is.
Alright. Do we wanna go on to?
All right, so
Any
we
other
got off
questions?
on that, but that was interesting.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, so he's got a few additions and subtractions on the same. He's got his additionals there. Let's go to the additional sheet, just so we cover everything. The first one was the new program over 3 years, so that was good. And then he wants to remind us of the captain position, which was approved for 5,000, which he's put in for 20,000, and that's why the new idea came up yesterday. It's called captain and deputy chief, and if it was deputy chief, it likely wouldn't be in the union. If it was captain, it probably would be in the union. So there's some discussions that need to take place there.
I know what I would vote for.
So there's, some discussions that would need to take place there. And then, and that's already in there, but the additional sheet should be there because this is a major change.
So 2019, we approved 5,000.
Just
for
5,000,
captains.
and it has not taken place.
That's that was my next
Okay.
question.
So
So we
this
carry
is,
that forward?
We only added 5,000, so that's not,
we might be able to, because it has not taken place. Yeah,
It was approved and not taken place, so we can carry.
we can
it
do the
forward.
carry forward for it. Yep, no, that's a good point. Because you have to have the exact item. If it hasn't happened, we can carry it forward, as long as there's money left in that budget, and there will be.
okay, so you budgeted 5,000, so is that a current officer taking on additional duties and getting that 5,000? Or is that a whole new position?
Oh, that was to be added to a position. He was gonna do like a promotion, it hasn't taken place yet.
Okay,
And so he's saying we
So
should
that's
do
still-
20,000, not 5,000, or add 20, is it to be 25,000 in total or 20,000? 20,000 in total. We might have an extra 5,000 available.
okay.
I can do a.
That's when there was the talk about the title on what it would be.
So Ben and Sal are the two officers now that would be candidates for
No,
a captain's
that's salary and
position.
benefits.
Oh.
We got new officers. We haven't introduced them. That's a good one, Heather.
They're already been hired.
I'm the one
We got
usually.
Ben here, we got
goes
Sal
on
over
the
there.
Ben and Sal?
Ben's doing a great job.
Tell you. He listens to you too.
Carry on.
Sal's not doing that great.
So
I
if
feel like
he,
on the page with Ben and Sal again. Wow.
They're all
I'll
over
be
the place.
thinking of them. Okay. I'm done talking now.
So this one for the officer ACO, the police chief and the union agreed to add detective to that, and nobody did go for it. So he's just putting this in to remind us we need to increase it, because we only had half of it in there. So that was fine. And
so we can put the other half in,
Yeah.
now it becomes a whole
It'll
position.
be a whole position, yeah, and I did remember that. That would go into the regular personnel line. The only one I would keep out is the SRO, so that we can see all the expenses, and it's very clear to the school, this is what we're billing you, it's easy for everyone.
Right.
And when did we budget that for that last year?
So the SRO was, oh, this
No,
one,
this one.
yeah, this one was, I think,
30?
30,000. Yeah,
All right.
Th-
So,
This what?
yeah, patrol ACO
captain?
was 30,000.
so we can carry that forward also?
I'm confused. This says officer ACO detective, and then down here in the narrative it talks about the SRO position.
Yep,
Oh, you know what? That might be a mistake, just because I was cutting and pasting.
well, I was really getting confused here.
It has all SRO information in there, but
It
it's
does.
not, it doesn't match up. Is there another page that it needed to go on? No.
Yeah, I gotta clarify that.
Hold on.
So you've got 25,000.
Are you on the second page, Heather?
I'm on the the third page of addition, after captains Ben and Sal. The next one. Officer ACO detective.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
25,000.
that's just the typo.
Okay,
I'll
so
fix that.
this is the SRO position, not
No.
for
No, this
officer
is-
ACO.
No, when I was.
Yeah, let's not.
It is officer
It
ACO.
is Officer ACO.
So everything down here that
The-
talks about,
The SRO stuff is not true.
cross out the
I
SRO stuff.
guess I cut and pasted it from the last time, and
So 50% utilized as detective for the police department.
That hasn't been worked out yet.
No, no.
So,
It would be hard to budget for that this way.
so we budgeted, so last year, Deb, we had, the question had come up about if we could hire another officer and have them do ACO duties and things like that.
Right.
So then when I met with the union, they had suggested, their suggestion was, could we add detective on for that also, for a day or two a week, just to help out with some of the things that go on in the department. So
Okay.
that was the position, but the council, you all voted to hold it, instead of funding it on January 1st, to wait till July 1st. So the position is still pending, nothing's happened with it yet.
okay.
That makes
So-
sense.
But at the top of the page, it says AC officer / ACO / detective, and then break down the funding is all SRO.
Forget the SRO stuff.
So this is
all
just
of
straight
that
up
is-
officer. Officer / detective.
I'll tweak it and bring it back to you better the next time.
Yeah, this would be one stressed officer.
And then-
Too much to do.
And then Catherine's alluded to the other ideas, so we'll just talk about that later.
Okay.
Because I think
Yes,
it's confusing.
yes,
now.
he's
So
mentioning,
just,
yeah, he's mentioning with the captain position there, it would be called like a deputy chief. He's got deputy chief down here. So that all fits in. Perhaps if the captains went in with one of the positions, he's got different ideas, so that's why I said make a chart, so you could all see it, because it is a little confusing.
and the cadet program,
Yeah, that one's already in there, this wasn't really needed. He just wanted to make sure it was in there again, and it is, it hasn't taken place yet, but it would continue in the budget.
Where is it in the budget?
It was
Did we
put
add it?
into the part-time line, I believe. I can double check that, but I think that's where it
It
was.
was,
This includes, so where it says adding and training new reserves, that would include
it was up at the top.
the
Where?
cadet.
Yeah,
Page
cadet
one.
program under part-time employment in the regular budget.
So it's actually, so we don't need that page because it's not an actual additional
Correct.
request because it's
Yeah.
still in there.
Right.
That page isn't needed. All right, we made our way through everything. So there's gonna be a little tweaking of the budget here.
Didn't we fund the cadet program last year?
You
Yeah.
did, it's already in there.
Okay.
Did you want me to mention the video, Catherine, just so you know that it's the
We didn't do any of the capitals, I'm just putting
Oh, okay.
everybody's capitals in, so he has a 7,000 for the video, in the cruiser for the protection of the officers and the scenes and everything.
The
to
body
take it.
cameras.
see, we have body cams now, or?
Yeah.
We do, but half of them don't work, and
so this is to get new ones?
we were budgeted for 2020 for 7,000 this year, but I've been holding off on it because I put in for a grant from emergency management.
Yeah,
And if I just texted or emailed the guy that is in charge of it a week or two ago to say, hey, have you got your overall grant yet? He hasn't. So I'm hoping I'm gonna get it, so it'll save us $7,000. And then the next year for 21, I will get the same system. And so then we have two of our frontline cruises that'll have the watch guard video, that's a brand, just say video.
right,
And then we'll have
The body
up-to-date
cam.
body cameras for all the officers. So we don't have enough money
kind
this year to buy it all, we definitely would next year for the extra body cams and for the reserves, or at least 2 or 3 extras for the reserves. So,
Good thing.
All right, I think we made it through. We'll probably have more questions, but this is more difficult or a more complex budget, which is why you have it, because it has changes and everything.
any questions about the, about the policies? And I mean, that's I think a real big one. We've been lucky because, over the years, nothing's happened, but if we look around the state and everything that's going on, police, fire, I mean, it's not getting any better.
That's because
sometimes.
you've had excellent employees
That's
who are
right.
very, very cautious on,
Well.
what their actions.
Well, they do a good job, but I'm just saying that,
you
we've
still
been
have
lucky.
to protect yourself.
Exactly.
So,
Because you never know, and everybody's got a camera now.
Oh, yeah, the cameras we need,
Yeah.
yes.
will those
Because
revised,
everybody else is
Yeah,
carrying
exactly.
the camera.
Yeah, the officers need them, definitely, that work. Yeah.
Yes, that would be preferable.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
will those revised policies have to be approved by the council?
No, they're done by the police chief. The union has to agree with them.
Yeah.
Oh, on some of them, that would be, I think,
Some of
would
them
be
would be federal
contractual.
mandates.
That would have a contractual
Yeah.
side to it. Like,
The fire department does all of their own.
Mhm. This is similar to, there's a general code company that for many of the towns and in one of my past towns, they update your code for you, get it all checked out when you send the information down, it's all set up. And then every time you have a change, you don't have to go in and change all the pages and move everything around. They do it. There is a cost attached to it, but it's 100% guaranteed correct, so you don't have the trouble that you run into in town in which something isn't updated and it's not in the book and things like that. So this is similar.
Yeah.
So we're all
Why
set.
are we using that?
Yep. I've used the general code, it's wonderful. Yeah. We're doing it the old fashioned way now,
Well,
money wise.
okay,
So, all set on police communications at ACO?
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Chief.
So we'll have a little break when I find the public works permit. He was coming back and, we'll see
Pete,
where he
over
is.
here, I got a question for you.
All right, so the camera's gonna stay on, we're gonna have a break.
Yeah, I know, look at us.
Question about the SRO.
And do you think we could find a
Okay.
wheelchair? Oh, next week there'll be a dozen of them. Chief.
Okay.
Thank you. He's in that door.
Yeah, it's like an airlock thing or something.
Okay, so Public Works is the last.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Oh. So it is a workshop, we can talk if we want to. The theater. If she's brought the gap down. So is that something we could live with for one more year? Do you think? Or not doing that, or doing that would cut out other things that we need to do? I'm just trying to think where the committee is not exactly educated in the ways of doing what they have to do. So it might take longer for them to get, and Jamie can't do it by herself.
I think the gap is definitely less than it was last year. I wanna say it was like 90.
Because I had,
Catherine said it was
I had been
72
talking to a few people, and I've been given some names to get a Rio committee together, board of directors.
All right, so we
I've
have
got
a
6
public works
names.
foreman here who we got in the hallway.
Yeah, crack the pop. How you doing?
Good.
How you feeling?
Okay, right now while I'm sitting, just basically
So
sitting
they
on the
have your
couch all day,
budget.
feeling totally inadequate because I can't do anything but walk the
And I didn't put the capitals in because they're all going in the budget anyway. I'm doing that once a different.
Well, I do,
Yeah.
I,
You can
it's
talk about them,
sciatica, but
you didn't do
it's like
capital.
Yeah, that's fine.
really severe, my whole right
Oy.
leg, right now.
Say what?
And I
Say
don't know
what?
what I did to deserve it because I don't remember.
Sometimes it just sneaks
It's
up.
raining out?
My
Yeah,
mother told me,
so,
it doesn't get done.
police
She
theater.
was right. I said, Mom, where's the golden meal? She said, you already had
See, I
them.
like seeing that.
It's true.
Yes.
How's your leg doing, Bob?
What's that?
You look like you're doing better than me.
Looks good.
Still pretty sore.
So just one quick comment on the SRO officer. That was in the budget for 60,000 in a separate line. And that's, what was the amount that was in there for the year.
Okay,
And separated is good because then we track everything.
so
Yeah.
That number.
it'll be its own account.
Yes,
And
then
that
we- then we-
60,000
and then-
actually till the end of December, but we don't know what it's gonna be after that, right?
Correct.
With the SAD 53 paying a certain percentage.
Yes, what I estimate, because things are going along so well, as long as we agree on the language, which we will eventually, because they'll have different language and the attorneys will talk about it. It will be the amount of what the wages are, because we get reimbursed. So once we know what the wages are, you just do your Excel spreadsheet and we're all set.
Okay.
Catherine, I had my budget book with me from last year, and back to the question of the 10% savings on the insurance that could be possible through the, using the Power DMS system. This states that our general it says law enforcement including is included in the general liability. That was 13,261. So if 10% of that would be another $1,300 that would be saved.
Yeah, we have to see exactly which one it is, just verify it with this company.
Yep.
And MMA as to which policy it would apply to. And then, although everything's together, we can get a breakdown of exactly what policy costs what.
Okay, that was just the
You
general.
pay them all at once and, monthly payments.
Are the police included under public officials and management liability, or would that be?
There's a separate police liability policy that's in the general court, the general
in the packet.
liability, yes.
Okay.
So we can break it out. All right, on to Public Works, Buildings and Grounds, which is in large Excel spreadsheet so that we could see the comments that Steve had. Otherwise, you'd have 4 sheets and have to match it up there. So I apologize, it came out sideways and turned everything sideways in your PDF that you got through email.
Yeah, I decided not to print that one off.
Yeah, don't print that one off. So again, on the payroll, that all gets calculated out after we get everything together to see exactly where we're at. And Steve asked for more overtime time.
What was the we don't have 2019 numbers here. What was overtime last year?
So Public Works, overtime.
Which is
was.
gonna be skewed because of they wouldn't have had the overtime in the winter.
Correct,
Because
we
they-
haven't got that yet.
Right.
It's not incorporated yet.
So Public Works overtime was 15,000 last year, actually this year, and we're already over, way over.
But our
Up at-
budget amount was about 15,000.
Yeah, 15,000, we're up at 21,372. And part-time is hardly anything's been used, only 795 of
Correct,
15,600.
right, and a part-time help.
So you
We
cut
don't
that
typically
back.
pick up any part-time help in the summer. We usually pick that up for the help with shoveling sidewalks and whatnot. That
Sorry,
would-
part-time help for 2019 was budgeted for 15,600.
So it's 15,600 in 2019, and in his 2020 budget, he's saying it should be less. It'd be-
7,500.
So there'd be
That's
more
what I-
overtime and less part-time hours.
That's what I was trying to work out where.
Correct. Yeah, because we don't really.
Now, where is the standby pay? What category is that in?
We don't have that in the category, that's the amount, you're talking the on-call.
We just
Yeah.
put it in the overtime when we post it.
You put it in
The
overtime.
on-call pay, which the on-call rate is.
But it's,
Presently at $10 a day for the 7 days they're on call. But
That's all?
last year, the way it came off, we didn't have our new hire, so we don't have a rotation in the schedule. So it ended up being everybody ended up on call. The first 2 years I was here, I collected no on-call pay because it is what it is. But the third year, I did, or the third season, I did. I
oh,
said,
because you
"No."
were plowing.
Well,
You
yeah,
guys
it
almost
just,
killed
you work so
yourselves.
much, it just, yeah, cover
A
everything.
lot of times I just said, hi, good night.
Well, no, yeah, no,
Well, so
Dean,
hopefully this will get stabilized this year, because you're asking for another person.
well, that's
which
what
we
I'm,
need.
that's
We
what
need
I'm
another
trying to do.
person.
If I had the person coming into the winter, it would've made a big difference. But I couldn't get the person really until the spring. They just kept falling through.
Well, what about the person you did hire though?
That was this spring.
So,
So that person has a class 2 license, right?
Correct,
Will be in the
Correct.
plowing rotation.
correct, yeah. Yeah, but,
so the 6 men, does that include the extra?
excuse me,
The 6 men says,
that would be another person this year.
so you have 5
You
now.
have 5 now.
Right
So
Okay.
you're looking for one more. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so
And
they-
then you still need additional overtime.
The overtime figure, yeah, I need to sort of plan on that. I come up with that original figure based on not coming into the year with the additional man and based on our history, okay, and knowing what we gotta deal with off hours and then still cover our regular work. Even though I had a man, I'm not, my initial request last year was $30,000, even though it was, ended up being 15. As you can see right now,
For
I'm on
overtime.
track at 21, okay? And I hadn't gone through my first part of the winter into December.
But you didn't have the person on, and you all were working like steady, which
Right,
shouldn't.
but I don't see that the overtime number can really reduce.
Because once you get into a storm, that's it.
It could be 6 guys, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Depending on what you gotta cover, it could be 6 guys. And, my job suffers a little bit because I cannot plan and manage as well as I should when I go and physically work as much as I do. And not that I don't mind that, okay, but I really need to do a better job of planning for the future than I can now, and taking care of other responsibilities that I think I should take care of than I do. Right now, everybody's out straight. I got, in the last 2 weeks, I've either had 3 or 4 vehicles down in the last 3 weeks, or 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I've either had 3 to 4 vehicles down on a regular basis. I got it so I can try to keep it rotated to the point where I can get 2 up, but the Ford just blew a water pump. The wheeler blew the tank straps. Parts coming from GM on strike. I'm just like, I can't win. But I'm getting to the age of my equipment, my trucks. Before being the oldest, I was down. The next one being the oldest, my wheeler, that was down. I finally get the wheeler back on the road. Timmy's truck, the new truck that we bought, the plow truck, I'm going through that and fixing things for, it was 10 years old when we bought it, but, some of the grease fittings wouldn't take grease from corrosion. So we had to actually heat the hinge points and stuff like that to get it so it even take, hydraulic fluid to start with, so then we could follow up with grease behind it. It is. So that's coming together nicely. And then I got a piece of metal I gotta have fabbed up over 2 rounds.
So should we be looking at,
He's
Somewhere,
already,
yeah.
Capital
he's
and-
submitted for the capital plan, so I'll
Right.
put all the trucks he's put on there.
Well, yeah, and they were in there last year.
Because
I'm just saying that's coming.
sounds to me like we
that's
need a
coming
lot of
due.
new equipment.
I
Well, what's
think-
happening is they're using it more.
I think,
Well,
I'll
When
come
work's
and
getting
deal with all
done,
the
that's a
trucks.
good thing,
Yeah.
so.
We just dumped
Newer
$1,000
vehicles,
So that's why
makes
it's happening,
sense.
that's why it's happening.
which I had the guy review the other things, and then he's got, to get 3/4 ton back on the road. And then the other things that I said, look it over, and the other things is I need my there's an alignment linkage. He says, I can't get it to line up because they're all wore out. It needs all complete new brake lines, because when I replaced the steering box, he says, and he's all new brake lines, he said, because at that point, that's where they're really corroded. He says, I'm surprised it passed inspection. Well, they probably couldn't get a viewpoint on that, but he could when he changed the steering box.
You were lucky.
So, yeah, so I'm looking at about another $1,000 in that, 2007 or 2008 Chevy pickup.
What's been your repair budget this year?
I'm over budget, right, Timothy?
How much?
I don't know, I haven't got a recent print on it.
He's over by $6,351.
And what was the budget?
Is that the total?
The total was 22,000 to start
Over.
out with, and now he's over
This is for what?
6,350, so he's at 28,350 at the end of August.
So if we replace nothing next year, I mean, granted that's capital, we can make an assumption that the repair budget's gonna be more next year.
Right, I'm not planning on it being that way, but, yeah, I mean, I have no control.
How can you know?
Right, because,
Right, I don't have control over it, I'm just telling you the way it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know if we can't afford to start buying new vehicles to replace the oldest one,
Right.
so we can get
You
decent
know,
equipment, then we have to put in the budget,
No, the thing is-
extra money for maintenance.
I have a new 1-ton. I had a cotter pin back out of the pin on the hydraulic ram. It wore through, actually. And then the pin back out, and then we were dumping a load of hot top that we're taking off for a pavement project, replacing culverts. So when Dave dumped it, the pin spit out. The shaft shot down through, in between the frame, crinkled the drive shaft, which can only come from GM, which is on strike, so one time's been down for 2 weeks. So, that's just an incident. That's a newer truck, that ain't even a thing, it's just, so you have the incidentals, and then you have the age, things wear out. Like I said, I'm not done yet, I'm already over budget, and I got a water pump going Ford, finishing up 2008 International, so on and so forth.
So how are we dealing with that, Catherine? Currently, we're over budget, and we still have 3 months to go.
Yeah, and he's over budget in the same.
Oh, I'm gonna be under
sand,
budget, some things over budget. and
Under
other
budget
things
and
are-
others, but we'll probably have to transfer money
We're
from.
gonna have to
department.
see what we don't do, and try to balance it as best we can towards the end of it. That's all I can tell you.
Right.
So, I know we're talking about next year's budget, but I just added up the extra overtime, the extra repairs. We did $13,000 more in sand. That's $25,000 that your budget is gonna be over this year.
Mhm.
before
As
we
of right
even
now.
As of now, before we even get into the snowy season of this year. So,
Right.
I mean, that's a lot.
You know,
And then we still have 3 months left in the year.
Correct.
Do you have anything in your budget that isn't gonna be over? That is gonna be held, or that will be under, that can,
Like I
You
said,
know
I
what I
haven't
mean?
had a budget report from where I'm at for a little while.
Steve needs a budget report. Can we get him a budget report tomorrow?
Well, he has a budget report because he submitted his budget and had his budget report in this package.
Was that expenditures to that point, or
Yes.
budget?
That was expenditures to that point.
I don't see that I have a.
Right, well, everybody got their budget sheets that had the expenditures as
Each
of that,
department.
as every department
That
did,
would
who
be
got
through
the
August.
request for the budget.
Through August.
Yeah, and you can come in and ask Emily, Ann, or I to run it out at any time for you.
Yeah.
So, ask and ye shall receive, hopefully.
Well, I'd rather have it just actually automatically come out at least once a month.
We did that, and I was criticized by the departments by giving them too much money and too much paper, and then they
Which
complained.
costs money.
Yeah, which cost money. So then I put it in a book, and then they looked at each other's budgets and.
That's always not.
So then I
Okay,
had to take
so-
the book away. So then we said, just ask for your budgets when you want.
I don't care how much.
Some people come in all the time. They come in once a week. I don't
And it's
know.
my hope that we put a new computer system
Send
in.
it, yeah, electronic.
That
format to
allows-
everybody. If you don't wanna read it, don't read it. If you don't wanna print it, don't print it.
Exactly.
Um, But, yeah, once a month,
So-
I'm all up for once a month, but I guess that goes with whatever everybody else wants.
Yeah, well, no, it doesn't, because everybody's coming in to get them, someone quarterly, someone weekly, one person
Yeah,
comes in
weekly.
several times a week.
I've never, in any position I've ever held previously, I've never gotten it weekly, that's for
Okay.
sure.
Well, it takes time for things to catch up and be posted and everything, but,
Correct.
I don't think monthly is unreasonable to expect. It's like balancing your checkbook once a month. You need to know what your budget is and what your expenditures are and whatnot. I don't think that's
Right.
unreasonable.
The only
to
other way
expect.
is to track, it would be for me, is to have my budget number at the beginning of the year and track every expense. And have every slip come through me, but I ain't got time for that. All I wanna do is see where I'm falling in and see what I gotta do.
Well, it sounds like all you have to do is ask them.
Yeah, you can come right in and look on the computer if you want to.
So for 2020,
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
you're looking at reducing your part-time hours, putting that into the overtime, and then adding one man. I'm looking at what is this 134,441 at the top, because it's not lining up something.
Well,
Regular
that's-
time and then
I-
man hours.
Well, first of all, that's not a number that I can actually produce because I don't have access to,
Yeah, this is back to where the departments don't submit in what they want for their own pay. We do that at the end, once we know how much money we can.
So what is that just a vestigial number from something else?
That would be a figure from last year.
All right.
And he's copied it out, and when you line up the Excel, his numbers are sometimes in a different line.
so.
So if we cross that out and just insert that $352,000 number
Correct.
for the regular time, that's what really
No,
should
we
be there?
would not do that whatsoever, because this 28, 26 is an average that
Right.
he's come up with that includes health insurance, all the benefits,
Right.
all the
Right.
costs. That's what we would do if we billed out for Public Works time.
Correct.
So he's just like the other departments, we're not doing the payroll right now.
Right.
But if he wants an additional person, then we would just budget for another person.
Right.
So what does the
What's the
additional
number?
person cost us, is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out,
Well, I
like,
can't figure it out. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't have,
is this a laborer, is this, you've got your overtime that.
actually, I don't wanna really hire a laborer. Actually, what I wanna hire is a mechanic.
Alright, how much is a mechanic?
You're probably
40,000,
gonna be in the
45?
$20 an hour range.
$20 an hour?
20, yeah.
Oh, more than that. If you
No.
wanna get a good one, cause we have a good one
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be hard to replace when he decides to retire.
correct.
So you're not gonna get anyone of his caliber for $20 an hour. Just throwing that out there, people.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, well, let's just say it's 20, because that's the number he gave us, so that's 41,640 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, just in salary, plus their benefits and everything else.
Correct.
So you're probably looking closer at what, 54? With the health insurance and whatnot? I think it was about 13,000 a year for
Yeah,
health
I think we
insurance.
put, for the Public Works ones, we put in 55,000 for their total cost of every single thing.
Alright, so let's assume it's a $55,000 position, and that's for a mechanic. Is what we're looking at. Now, does that put you, if you have a mechanic hired that can relieve some of the man hours that people are not able to go out and work because they're fixing things, does that, cut down on the overtime?
If we're gonna add another person and you've got the person who you hired last year in the rotation, the overtime figure should be able to be less, yes.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at, how do we reduce this
Yeah.
$36,000 cost of overtime? I know there's always gonna be some, but that's a full-time position.
Right, yeah.
You know, I mean, we're talking about paying this out every year, and we might as well just add another position and be
Yeah, I
adequately
agree.
staffed.
Mhm.
This business of having all these extra hours and having, we did away with the comp time, but, you know, having to pay time and a half on a salary rate, you're still paying time and a half on the FICA and everything else. The only thing you'd be saving on is your health insurance, because it's still only one person.
Yeah, you're exactly
You know,
correct.
but it's, you still have all those other added costs in there, and is it better to have an extra person available? I realize that there's never nothing to do in town. There's always something to do, whether if they don't have projects in this department, there's other departments that they can help out. I mean, we only have one staff person at the water sewer right now, so
Mhm.
that's a whole nother discussion that we're gonna have
Yeah.
to have.
That's a complicated one.
Yeah, I just want like adequate staff so that, because this seems really expensive to be paying time and a half.
Correct, yeah, I
But
agree.
that wouldn't eliminate the time and a half at times that he's plowing or anything else.
Yeah, because you can't
But then you
predict
have
how
7
much-
people
Yeah.
to go through the rotation instead of 5.
It's not gonna, right, it's not gonna be a man-to-man direct inflation on the overtime, because you are going to not have everybody on overtime. However, I would safely predict, depending on the weather in the winter and what comes up, because you're not gonna get rid of overtime. You may
Yeah,
reduce
it's
it
just
some.
not gonna happen.
Yeah, you would have to have
Well, there's
some.
always something that comes
Yeah.
up. You know,
I'm just.
it's
yeah.
always
So
gonna
my-
be
My
there.
point is just because you have a budget of $30,000 does not mean you need to spend it. But, well, at least if you have it there, okay, which, then if you come in, I'd like to just, I really like to come in at a balance or a negative, at the end of the year and turn that money back. Just because I have money in the budget at the end of the year, I will not spend that unless I needed something.
Well, we have to put the
Well,
money in the
then,
accounts,
but Catherine does that.
the accounts where we need, like we need
Well, that's
more
it.
in
You
motor
put it in the
vehicle
accounts
and
where you
less
need
in
it.
overtime.
Like, we're
when we
probably
add a
gonna be
person.
looking from some other
You know
department
this
to
at
cover
the end of
your
the year,
department.
No matter what you happen to know with, it's just like, there's no way I can predict what the sand's gonna come in at for what you want, what we want to do for sand. And we also need to look at projects in the future and how we can reduce that sand. Go to something more cost effective, change our methods. We're changing a lot of things. I mean, taking on 2 plow routes is a big change. But I think it's been a positive change. I look at it, I look at the result, I look at how we do.
I've never heard so many compliments about
I think it protects us in the
plowing.
future from a massive inflation. I mean, I talked to Stanley, the plower, and he's telling me quite an increase for Detroit coming up, because their contract's renewal. Well, our contract renews next year.
Mhm.
And he's telling me there's gonna be quite an increase.
Well, that's the other thing I'm wondering, if you have a staff person on already that's trained on the equipment and knows the
Correct.
routes, I mean, that prepares you better for
Mhm.
what may be coming later on.
Yeah,
That's part of what I'm trying to
2021.
do, correct, yeah.
All right, so there's gonna be an additional staff person, so you're gonna make up a form for the additional, because you put it on here, and we should do that. And
Yeah.
we're gonna cut the overtime down,
Hopefully that will do that.
yes.
Hopefully we won't have the nightmare of a winter that
We
we
can't
had.
do that again, it's not healthy.
No.
I wouldn't say you really want to cut your overtime budget number down.
Well, I think that you do, because that's a huge amount of overtime. If you're gonna add in another person, you're gonna have 2 people that are gonna be in the plowing. And what we could do is go out and advertise in November, so we're ahead of this, so that we could put somebody on January 1st.
Right.
So we're talking about adding 2 positions.
You've got one already
We
that
had-
got added in, that wasn't in the rotation last year, so we're adding
That
one
will
more.
be, and now we're
Yeah,
gonna
one
add
last
another
time,
one.
Yeah. So he'll have 2 more that will be plowing that
So I didn't
weren't
have
doing it
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
So yes,
But
everybody work.
he said he
But the
wanted
hours-
to,
What I'm saying is the hours that come in the store won't go away. Yes, you may theoretically reduce your overtime, but I wouldn't say you'd want to count on it. I've had overtime budgets before as a maintenance manager, and you cut yourself short when you don't budget for it.
The figure for the
Because I end up
overtime,
back in this situation that I'm in right now.
well, the figure, that's because we didn't have enough people out plowing and sanding. So now you will, so that's
And
a
this doesn't
large
take
figure.
this doesn't take into account the possibility of taking on another route.
Which wouldn't happen in 2020,
Not in 2020,
No.
but
in the future.
he could decide next year, look, I'm getting done, so you're gonna have them all.
That wouldn't happen till 2021.
Correct. That
Right,
wouldn't happen
but
in
that's still only-
2021, But
You know, yesterday
Right
I
now, we
looked at the
need to-
calendar and it was May, and now it's, today it's October, so.
All right, so let's go on and look at these other accounts here. The general supplies was increased from 131,525 to $186,050. This was
All
the
things we have no control
sand
over.
and the sand and the salt.
I mean, we put out bids
Yeah.
or RFPs and
It is what it is.
it is what it is.
Yeah, next year we can bid the sand early and we might have more choices. But this is the way it is for 2020.
Can we get somebody to sign a multiple year contract? Can we get a better rate if we tell,
For
was it
sand?
Snowman's that had the sand that we, agreed on the other night?
I don't, you can,
Can we
yes,
do, can we
there
go
are,
to them and
there
say,
are
will you give us a
towns,
better rate if we guarantee we'll buy sand from you for the next 3 years at this price?
possibly.
Would
There
you
are
have
towns
to
that do
put an
multiple year
RFP out
contracts, like
asking
I said,
that?
For that purpose, yeah, you can ask that question. We can
Yes,
ask that
we
question.
could do that
Yeah.
for,
I mean, it
20,
just sounds like,
But,
we could do that for 2020 in
But I
future.
mean,
Yeah.
you send out the RFP,
it's like anything
they've
else,
already been sent.
contractor.
Yeah,
not
we're all
gonna set
set for
himself
now,
up to lose
but,
money.
because we're gonna buy it
So
all
he's gonna
in
have to try to protect
2019. In 2020, we
what the
could put
cost
it
is
out
gonna
early.
increase,
Right,
if there is any, so he's gonna be talking to his supplier.
because we don't
Not
generally,
every contractor is the supplier of their aggregate.
right,
Okay, so he's gonna have to talk to that supplier and get a projection of, if I lock into a 3-year, can you guarantee you'll sell it to me at this? Or would you sell it to me at this if I guarantee that? And then his increase in labor costs and fuel costs. So he's gonna have to figure that in and average it out.
I
But
understand
yeah,
all
it
that.
would- it
I'm just
may-
saying, it
what
might
would-
be-
I think what it would more do would be protect us knowing what our budget number would be for the future.
exactly.
Exactly.
Even if they say this year it's this, next year it's $1 more.
Correct.
Next year it's 75
Correct.
cents more. You know, if we had some prediction
can
of that, and
project
some
it.
stability within our budgets going forward, then we would have a better idea of what changes we can make in other places.
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't go from a 7.
and the RFP sent out next year could ask for
Yes.
1, 2, and 3-year pricing,
Yeah,
right in the
Yeah, I wrote that
RFPs.
down for next year.
And
yeah.
instead of,
Correct.
because we have to stay
I think
within
it'd be
our
really beneficial.
policy of getting pricing.
Yep, and do that, and at that point in time, what I've learned this year is, we definitely want to have the sand samples on the front end and test it, and then you'd have to test every year
Okay. What's
of what you
MMEHT? Up a couple lines.
Health
61,000.
insurance.
That's health insurance.
Yes. We're
And that's
waiting,
for 6?
yeah, we're waiting for the price. Yeah, we would have to make sure we had the proper number of people in it.
Okay.
And the unemployment will change to, FICA would change, you know, all
Yeah.
those would
Yep.
change.
Yeah.
So its big changes were in the general supplies, for obvious reasons of, the salt, we never had enough in there, and the sand is being hauled to us rather than us go haul it and have it in the man hours and in the personnel costs, so it's an additional cost in the general supplies. And then the other major increase was in the contractual services 2505. which plans a lot more work.
What does that mean? I don't know what the offset cost yet would be our plowing 2 weeks. These are the same 2 routes as last year?
What's that?
Under the contractual services, it says note 1, I don't know what the offset cost will be yet with our plowing 2 routes. That's the same 2 routes that you plowed last year.
Yeah, we're plowing,
Okay, so does that change?
The
Yes.
105,000.
right, his contract increases.
Okay, he's got, on his budget, he has the original cost of the snow removal contract, not subtracting out, the cost that we're doing. So that's where I wrote you the note that we have to subtract that out, and I'm waiting for
Correct.
what his figure is. I'm a little bit off from what I would think it is, so I need the figure
Well,
from you.
what we had taken over was 29.5% of the
Yeah.
plow routes.
Okay.
That was what we had taken over, was 29.5%.
So
So you could apply the 29.5% of
So
the
let's
overall
just say
contract.
$29,000, because that's
Correct.
Give or
roughly
take.
what it would
Yeah.
be.
yeah, so we're gonna fix that figure and subtract this out, and he'll still have all his increases for everything else.
So we got that last year also.
Yes, that was subtracted out. Your last year budget was 87,494.
Okay.
And that had the lower amount of the snow removal.
Correct.
This is just from his spreadsheet. He's got the original cost of the contract.
Correct.
So that will be changed, and I'll take 29.5 out of the new cost,
And then-
because it's gone up a few dollars per mile.
And then the grounds maintenance mowing, that is a new contract that we'll put out to RFP so that you're not mowing grass.
Correct.
And that covers, what is that gonna cover? Is that just the buildings? Is it the parks? Everything? Nobody's sitting on a mower at all next year?
That's my plan.
Okay.
It's the parks and the buildings. The park
If
is
that's
what
the
we've been
direction we
doing.
go. So, all the parks and all the municipal facilities. like
And
who has one, Steve?
Library, town office.
And that
Not the
cost
cemetery.
$800,000?
No.
Well, no,
Well,
absolutely not.
No, number 2.
What are you talking
I
about?
think I was trying
Well,
to project.
I'm trying to figure out what you guys are all talking about, because I see a figure here of
I'm
$800,000.
looking right here where it says
Steve.
grounds maintenance mowing.
Mowing,
That is an
25,000.
Steve.
Is it?
Okay, but
When you say all the parks, then who has one, or the cat do that?
The only park it does include is
Manson.
Manson.
Okay,
We mow all other parks.
okay, I thought he did.
What is that
have one.
number, Catherine, on that second note, that 800? I think it's supposed to be 80,000. Says note 2, there's a funny,
it says
All
it
right.
comma
All
or
right, on
something in the wrong
his
spot,
note,
or?
his note says it costs approximately 16,400 in labor, only for the public works to mow the lawns, and
Is it $8,000 with
I
fuel?
Is
would
it
assume it's
80?
80,000?
Is it 880 or 800?
Well, I
It's
would
not
think that
800.
it's a decimal, it's a comma that should be a decimal, $800
With fuel.
with fuel.
Okay.
Okay, with
says
fuel
without
equipment
fuel.
and,
Yeah.
well, isn't it?
We knew it wasn't 800,000, but it
So-
looks like it.
So
Let's
Take a quick
that,
look.
that is what it costs us to do it. You will not contract it for that. It will cost you a little more in contract.
Yeah, when we did all this, it
But
cost
we have all our
So
maintenance
why-
people available to actually
How many,
do.
We used to have
days a
building
month does
maintenance.
it take to do that?
How many days a month?
Well, how many hours does it take to do that? Because you'd save that in
Correct,
personnel.
correct.
Do you have one person mowing just about every day?
What was the reason
Pretty
we
sure it
stopped
takes right around
contracting it
22 hours a
out?
week, but I don't have
If
that
I
number
remember
right now.
correctly, it was because they were
During
doing a
the summer.
crappy job.
Correct, it was horrible work, and people were complaining.
Look,
Okay.
And, because it all,
why,
like
why
Jack,
are we
like Jack Ray
thinking
will tell
about?
you, it all depends on the weather and how the grass grows. It
It's
could be
growing a
more
lot
some
this
weeks,
year.
less other weeks. I mean, you're not that way. Spring, you're heavy. Summer, if you have a dry summer, you're slower. And then you get into fall and the grass starts growing again like crazy. You get more and more.
All right, so Deborah's got a question here.
Yeah,
That's okay.
no, I'm
Never
sorry.
mind.
No,
All set.
How you feel? I'm sorry.
Well, she wanted to know why we stopped contracting it out to begin with, but Catherine said that it was terrible work that
It
was
was,
being
we
done.
had horrible
was
work, constant
wretched.
complaints, and so Public Works just took it over, because the contractors would fight with Public Works. They would call the office and say they mowed it, we go down and take pictures, it wasn't mowed, and we had to,
And do the
terminate,
weed-whacking.
do the termination paperwork for the contract.
I just have a real problem going back to contracting when we've had so many people sitting in this audience in the winter saying how bad the town looks.
Well, this is where in the contract you have to set your expectations and you have to hold them to it.
And somebody has to
And then they
supervise
have
that.
to
in
bid.
Yeah,
your
you have to go out.
contract, and you
No,
shouldn't have
if
to.
somebody's bidding something to expectation, your expectations, they agreed to that, okay? And then you gotta hold them to it. And if it becomes a management nightmare on my end, then you fire them.
Hey, I'm all in favor of that.
But,
I'd rather have our public works people out fixing the roads and doing the ditches and doing
Well,
all those things
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you know.
Planning for future roads to be
My
paved.
goal is to continue to push and get away from the lesser important things and concentrate more on infrastructure each and every year. And we're my crew will tell you, we've headed in that way, and we are headed in that way. And a good one to talk to would be David Connors. He's been through it with me since the beginning, and he's seen more of the direction change than anybody else. And he says, we're gaining ground.
Good,
We're
good to hear.
gaining ground. Yeah.
You're getting what?
We're
Gaining
gaining ground.
ground. Oh.
We're gaining. Roadside brush,
Yep.
Well,
dirt
because-
road maintenance, ditches, culverts, he says we're gaining. He says you can see the
Dean's been
change.
bush hogging for a month now, steady.
Tree
That's,
removal,
well, that's right, and Dean, the roadside mowing, boom mowing, is about 2 months of a man in the year.
Doing this.
2 months of, and we're still gaining.
But that's because you're catching up on it later
Right.
on, in
Oh,
the years to
it'll-
come, it'll be
It'll
less.
still take that amount of time, but maybe not quite that amount of time, but.
Yeah, but it may take that amount of time too, because I can tell you right now that each year, like right now, I just had to do the Johnson Flat Road. And we were there last summer,
Yeah.
and I had brush
Yep.
saplings this tall.
Darn
That's how
ash.
fast, huh?
those darn ash, they go fast.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but so, but that's what gets you in trouble if you don't keep it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, I think, yeah, and I agree
Once
with
you gain
Heather.
ground, then we need to maintain, and that's,
I would like to see the highway or public works department doing more public works and less emptying trash cans and changing light
well,
bulbs.
that's public works. We are gonna probably have to empty trash cans unless we, I don't know, unless we contracted that too.
That's public works, you should be doing that. Tree removal, well, no,
Yeah.
it's our,
I
it's
don't
our
disagree with
It's
you.
public works, you should be changing the trash cans and doing, that's public works.
I do, I don't disagree
Tree
with that.
removal and stump grinding, $18,000.
So he's increased that because normally that's in the other budget, which needs to be decreased on grounds and buildings.
Okay.
That was in for about 7,000.
So building and grounds maintenance just got depleted
Slash.
completely.
It had a contractual
It looks like it
in
has.
2505, and we were spending 6,800 to 7,000 for the trees. So he's moving it out of there, though it hasn't been subtracted out, and putting it into the contractual and public works, which is actually better, and increasing it to 18,000 to get more caught up on the trees. There's lots of problematic trees.
I had some people tell me the other day that
What's that?
I had a guy tell me the other day that we cut some trees down on Somerset, was that 2 years ago?
Yep.
And he still has stumps that need to be ground.
Well, that's right, because I don't have enough money to go back.
That's what
and grind it
that's what he said, that you were, well, he said you were behind on other projects and weren't getting to it, so.
Well, I'm behind on trees. Pittsfield's got trees, just, all right, look at MCI. How many trees they take down this year?
37 or 34,
Okay.
yeah.
Because the trees in Pittsfield are of similar size, of similar age, a lot of them, Okay, yes, we got some newer ones, and yes, we got some older ones. But we're coming to a critical point, and I'm losing ground. I've been losing ground. I've watched it for 3 years. So it's time to do something about it. The other thing that we don't, that number was inclusive of stump grinding and everything, but if I'm consuming it every year in tree budget, okay, where am I gaining? I'm not gaining anything. So I've got more stumps than I got trees that I take down every year.
So does this budget give you the ability to go back, grind all those stumps from past years?
If I can budget, because it costs me an average of $300 a stump. That's the average price of grinding a stump, an average of $300.
Because the big trees, it's by diameter.
We don't get rid of the labor in the tree, right? So my average on tree takedown is about $300 a piece. Some are 700, some are less, but my average is $300 a piece. Because all I require of them is drop them, and we take care of it.
Yeah.
If some people wanna have the wood, come get it. If some people want it, you know, if I can donate it and unload it in large wood and they wanna handle it, we do. And then we haul the brush off.
Now, are you doing just the main streets, like the downtown streets? Are you doing the entire town?
The entire town.
It's the worst trees, the more dangerous ones.
I have, yeah, and I don't have budget for it either. I'm not trying to explain that to them, but I have one critical tree across from MCI that must come down this year. And another one on Smithfield Road. It's a giant oak, it's right next to our house, but it's in the road edge, it's our tree. And it's split, and it's opened up about that far. Well, I put her off for 2 years, but it's getting to the point where, because it's an oak, it's strong,
Uh-huh.
but I can't count on it.
Not forever.
No.
And not if we have a real good blizzard.
It's a giant oak, correct.
Or
And-
ice.
And she gets a lot of wind
Freeze
out
and thaw
there
in
too, so. I agree with it. But what I'm trying to do is come up with a budget number that works to gain ground.
All right. That's
Okay,
good.
because right now I've been losing ground ever since I've been.
So can we make sure we get the stumps that are out there that are aggravating people in this
I won't get
bid?
them all the first year, no.
All right.
Pick the ones
Well,
where the people are
$9,000
complaining the most.
For $300 a stump, that's 30 stumps.
Correct, and I have a tree list right now.
That ain't that much, that ain't that many.
I have a tree list right now of 25 trees that have to come down, and I've had 4 more come in this week, so now I'm at 30 trees to come down this coming year.
Not counting the stumps that are already there.
Not
So that's your
counting the stuff that I
$9,000
did.
right there, and take down
But-
every one of those trees.
I don't wanna build a budget number for that. Going, you know, I can gain ground, just, you gotta be patient. I took care of your hazard, doesn't mean I can make your lawn beautiful in the first year at the same time. Will I wanna get to that in the future? Yeah, I do. I wanna get to that, but I gotta try to be reasonable as I can. I just need to gain ground.
So you said you have 30 trees,
I'll have 30 trees.
an average of 300 a tree, so $9,000 next year should catch you up on all your trees.
Mm-hmm.
I hope, but
Okay,
the way they're
and
coming
then-
off,
No, it'll.
I got
Until the
4
trees
more
is-
this
Right,
last
that's what I'm
month.
saying, it'll catch them up on the trees on the list now.
Correct.
Yeah,
And then next, after
And there'll
years
be
going
more.
forward, it should be more of a maintenance tree, so it
Right,
should be
correct.
more like
yeah.
2,000 or 3,000, say you have to take 10 trees down in an average year. So
Yeah.
that'd be like a $3,000
Well, that
budget
list-
versus 9.
I only carried forward from 2
No.
years ago, like 4 trees. That list grew that much in the last year.
Oh, I
don't-
understand
I'm saying
that.
my tree age is coming to a point where I'm gonna plan on, I'm gonna have to take maybe 20 trees a year for a while, but I don't wanna have to, but if I
Now,
don't, I'm
do you
fine.
guys,
Alright.
does the highway department do that?
We do that. Well, we don't take the tree down.
Okay, so how much does it cost to take the tree down?
An average, they average out at $300 a piece.
And then
300 more for
that,
stump.
300.
and then 300
So
more to
600
grind
trees.
the, okay,
So I.
that wasn't clear.
In the past, we bid it out across 3 companies. And I've only had one company that averages $300 a tree, so I predominantly use him because he's that cheap. Everybody else is double or more.
So if he does a good job, stick with him.
So if I lose him, then I'm looking at double the price of a tree. That's what I'm saying. But right now, I've got a good thing in my pocket, so,
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good company.
yeah.
Any major changes in general supplies? I guess this goes back into public works. I guess it's still public works / highway. And then the next one's public works, building grounds.
Buildings and grounds is the second page. So we went through most of the public works page. The big difference, of course, in the general supplies was the sand and salt. And then we got into the contractual, because that was a major increase. And we're gonna be increasing a lot of the items, but decreasing the amount of the snow removal contract to what it actually is.
Correct.
And then the heating part, that's where we had pointed out the heating bills are way over a budget. And I talked to Steve about that, and he had something that was wrong with the furnace, but a minor item that wouldn't have caused all that, so.
Right, I have two furnaces in my shop.
Okay.
I have one furnace.
But the doors were open so much from the plowing.
But I
He
think the
thought that
major,
was
the
it.
major cause is we are in and out of the shop more than we ever were. So doors open, doors closed, recovery. And the other thing is, I believe I'm keeping the shop at 60 and not 50.
Between all those things, that would explain this. Yeah, that would explain it.
I'm gonna have, I mean, keeping it at 50, you open the door, I'm telling you, it's something else.
It's not 50 anymore. It's not 50 anymore.
No.
50 is a lot closer to 32.
And then the only recovery from 50, you never get a really chance to warm up.
No?
Yeah.
You know?
And you can't expect people to be working with heavy equipment when they can't feel their fingers, and I mean, it's just, and if you bring equipment in, you
It
gotta
just
get the
never
snow
warms
to
up.
melt off it, and you can't work on things if it still has ice on it. And
Well, I know I haven't got the circulation I used to have.
Join the
Yeah,
club.
it used to be at 55, but 60 is better.
My hands get cold quick easy.
You mean 10?
Yeah, they have it at 55.
And then, is that one of the buildings that's slated for an energy audit for the lighting in that building as well, or was it
That
just
did
this
not
building?
qualify because they needed to be public buildings that the public goes in and wanders around.
Well, we need to have an open house down at the Public Works Garage.
I submitted them all.
You just put a light in? Okay. So,
Yeah. There's little
we
grants that
don't
we
use
can
our
apply
fluorescent
for.
light in much that was installed. We had some high bays that didn't work. So when I bought replacement bulbs, I bought LEDs.
Okay.
So I have
So that
to
helps.
use those fixtures for LEDs.
So you've got LEDs,
Correct.
yeah.
And
Much,
if I do need
much
the
better
extra light, I
light,
might
much
put
lower
on
light bill.
fluorescents. But in the future, that's something I think we can take care of on our own going forward. We just have to see how it goes.
So we talked before about mulching the trees. Are we able to use some of the chipped branches to be able to mulch the trees instead of buying mulch?
I don't know that you're gonna get the consistent color that you want. Most mulches.
I don't want
Personally,
consistent color.
Personally,
I would
Okay.
rather see a natural wood chip there that fades to gray than spending $3,000 on mulch when we could have that as a byproduct of taking down all these trees.
I'm good with that.
Or
I'm okay
chipping-
with whatever.
chipping
it has to
them
be.
and-
Brush that
I
comes
just don't wanna
into
hear
the
it on the other
landfill.
end.
Well,
I
We
think
have
it's
3
a,
people here, 4,
I
they
think it's a
don't
good
care
point
what
to bring
color
up.
the mulch
I think it's a good point to bring up
I
with
don't
the
even
public
care if there's
session.
mulch.
Yeah,
Set out.
it's-
I mean,
I
to
really-
me,
really
that's,
do.
that's
I
an
really-
extra
It's
we
just-
shouldn't
this
be
is
talking
I mean,
about.
because one of the things I put fabric down and mulched underneath all old cedar fence that we put in Stein Park. And that makes it so we don't have to weed whack
Yeah.
around it. So there's a
It
cost
makes
savings.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yes, we have to mulch around it, so.
Well, it would look
And it's a
certainly in
consistent color.
keeping with natural, you
That's
know.
that's the garden club doing that, right? Yeah.
Correct. Well, the garden club takes care of the gardens and stuff like that. We take care of the mulch under the fence when it gets wore out, which is not necessarily every single year, but we have other things that we haven't caught up with mulch either. So you gotta keep your aesthetics, up to par. And if other people are okay with whatever, I'm okay with it. Who's gonna chip the brush and make the chips?
Well, don't you have to chip them up when you're getting rid of the trees that you're
I've
taking
been
down?
not chipping because I don't wanna put cost into it.
What are you doing with it?
Hauling it to the transfer station when they chip
Oh, what
it and
happens
haul
there?
chips. What's that?
So they're chipping it.
And it gets
Once a
hauled
year.
away for money, right?
Oh, once a year it gets
That's
there?
all
So
the
there should be a
stuff
pile
that goes
down
into the
there.
brush pile down there. Donnie has that big outfit come in once a year.
Yeah.
They chip everything and haul the chips.
Well, have them do it in the spring and tell, leave me a wheeler load of chips.
I don't think that chip's quite as pretty as you thinking.
Oh, I know what it looks like.
Yeah,
You know, the other thing too is that you have to mulch less with it because it's a coarser chip. It
is
doesn't
a
break
coarser
down
chip and you would
with
mulch
that
more
fine,
with it.
it's bark mulch, you know, when you're talking about
it is a
commercial
chip,
mulch.
it's not a
It's
mulch,
bark
it's not
mulch,
a
it's
shred.
very,
Not a
yeah.
mulch.
And you don't have to do it, you
Chips
don't have
away.
to keep applying it because it's a coarser, it takes a long time for that to break down,
I agree.
so.
Well,
All right, so we'll look at this mulching chipping item here and see if we can do it.
Well, I would like to go on the record saying that I think we should skip mulching until we've caught up on our paving or whatever.
Well, if you don't mulch under that fence, somebody's gonna have to go weed whack it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the stuff will grow up through it.
Well, under what fence?
The fence over here across the street,
Stein
along where the
Park.
trimmings, by, which park is that?
Sign.
Stein Park over here?
Oh,
The little split rail fence along
You
there?
do need to do it in certain places, or we have it's a mess and you have to go pull it out.
If we had, Heather's right, if we can use the chips, they'll last longer. We have a supply. And we could mulch more things and reduce less labor into, and let's keep it looking nice, into the perpetual maintenance of grass or weeds or whatever it is. That, to me, grass mowing is like, it just costs you money.
We just like to play.
It's not like haying. You hay to feed your cattle, at least, you
Yeah.
know, you got a benefit, but.
It's a cost, you know, you have pollution with the gasoline
Yes.
and everything else,
Yeah.
and it's a bad deal all the
So
way
I
around.
think the more that we mulch around trees, less weed whacking, it's just a benefit. It is a benefit.
What's our contractual under the Public Works buildings and grounds?
All right, that's where the tree
7,100.
removal was in there. So that can be cut. We talked about cutting that down to 2,000, so you had enough to do any work that was needed on the Industrial Park Road and the Industrial Park expansion, any bush hogging that was needed.
Well, this
that you
is
couldn't do
buildings
with
and
the big
grounds
machine.
though, so where do we see our maintenance on our buildings? There's only $200 here.
It was going in here.
She has her own,
The municipal building has some.
Each building has its own budget. then.
To some extent, and then this one takes care of all these little other buildings and the parks and every little piece
Well,
of property. So it's never had enough money.
$2,000 doesn't
Yeah.
seem like enough to take care of all the.
anything.
well, we don't
Buildings
put a lot,
down.
we don't put a lot into them. I mean, if you're talking like Hawthorne Park, you got the hot dog hut, they sort of kind of take care of their own. We give them some, little bit of help here and there, but we don't dump big money into it. So, yeah, we got maintenance of like little outbuildings for, Fenway Park.
Mhm.
you know, stuff like- But we don't have a big maintenance cost there.
Okay, what about you mentioned the industrial park, what about fixing the entry to that? It's still, the stone never got fixed this
We're
summer.
waiting Public Works, we have the money in an account for that.
We
There's
have
been a
insurance.
suggestion to
We had an insurance.
redo
Right,
that.
but that's gone through, so.
And-
Right, so that's not gonna get repaired, that's gonna get shortened.
Okay.
That's
It
what I was
has
gonna
to.
ask.
We have 50,
I know about, you
Is it-
told us about the trucks the other night,
Correct.
so your plan is not to fix it as it is, you're gonna shorten it back some,
Correct.
so they'll stop
Move the
driving
sign
into
back.
it.
Correct. I gotta get away from, the guys have put the blocks back by hand twice.
Which
A
doesn't-
resident has told me they've done it once,
Mhm.
okay, so it keeps getting hit.
Right. It's not strong enough for us doing it
Needs
ourselves.
to be shortened.
Yeah. Do we need that there? Can we move the sign to the opposite side of the
Well,
road by the stop
island is
sign?
no longer on that side of the sign, so that
No,
sign
I'm saying
is-
take the island out.
It's grandfathered there.
It has to be there.
The sign is grandfathered there. It's a massive sign. If we tried to move it someplace else,
Well, I think it's
Why
a
can't you
good-
just move it to the corner of the street?
Well, it is a good safety barrier to divide
Yeah.
traffic, especially with all the tractor trailers.
there's so much, they'd be on the other lane. It
The
just
only
is
thing
too
is, you're
far
going
out.
from 48-foot trailers to 50
Yeah.
trailer. You just shorten the end of it and let's.
Okay. So that's, when are you planning on doing that? We're having it done.
Next summer.
Not till next summer.
Let's let the trucks hit it.
Once it gets shortened.
So it's
We'll
contractual.
just keep picking up the
It's
pieces
really
as they
simple.
come.
Well, no,
Don't put 'em back.
I don't care even if I lose a few this winter. I'll have more than enough material left over when we tear it apart to close the roof. Alright,
So you're going out and picking up all the pieces when it falls off?
Well, it's sort of a-
I'm saying,
That's
It's a
awesome.
what I got ahead of me
safety
for
item here.
right now, for the rest of this year, I won't get that done, I'm telling you right now, I know that for a fact.
I had a feeling that
I'll
was
be
it.
on-
What's this electricity, $5,000 electricity here, what does that cover?
It's all the park bills, all the little building lots. We have we have a lot of electricity accounts. It's all the little accounts. Everybody's paid out of there for all the little lights, electricity to the gazebo, places like that.
Where's the street light account come out of?
That has its own account because
Yeah.
it's so large.
Okay.
This is all the miscellaneous
Yeah,
little
I
bills for the
didn't know
buildings.
exactly where that came out, I just thought of that.
You've signed the bills with a number.
Huh?
You've signed the bills with a number before.
I do sign the bills, but I look at them to see if they're out of whack, I don't know where it's coming from.
Uh-oh, I better go check that more.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it doubled out of the normal range, you'd like. Wow.
All right, so it looks like we're almost done. Under the contractual that has 7,100, that was the whole tree budget with the stump. So we put that and increased it over in the other budget, so we need to reduce this contractual. by
So where
some
did
amount.
it go in the other budget?
It went into the other contractual and became a larger
Twenty
amount.
05?
Yeah, 2505, it became 18,000 for the
Oh,
tree removal and
2505.
stump
Right
grinding.
there.
So we can pull it out of buildings and grounds?
Yeah, so something needs to come out. I'm not saying the whole thing does because
So
this account never has enough
plus
money.
Yeah.
5,000.
Leave 3,000 in there because you've increased it up above with the mulch and all of that.
Okay, so
I would take
that would be
4,100.
4,000.
100 out.
Move it and leave the other one at 3.
Yeah, leave it at 3. And then we'll
Or
have more
30.
money in this because it's not trees, so we can take care of the grounds better.
3,100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we taking mulch out of that other line item, 1005?
If you would like to, or if you want to cut it in half and see how things work out.
I'd like to see if we can get away with using less.
Yeah.
I
We
think
can
the-
see how good it goes, but leave some in
I mean,
there just
there's,
in case.
okay, so the fence in Stein Park, I understand that. But,
In the flower beds, and, I mean, right, so.
Do you wanna make it 1,500? That way, just in case you need some of the good stuff, you can get it.
Well, I like the idea of working towards not having to buy any, but we gotta get the buy-in from the other, so if I don't have any budget for it, then I sort of lock myself into trying to steal it from somewhere else when
Yeah,
everybody
I
wants it.
think
certain
half,
way.
Or
maybe.
just tell them, this is what we're doing now.
You
In
tell
awareness
them.
they like. I
this is the money we have, and these
You
are
know,
the
if we-
places that what we
will.
want.
Yeah, if we
Period.
wanna be spending money on other things, then we have to look at ways that we can be creative and not spend it in other places, and that,
'Cause
to
we're gonna-
me, is totally aesthetic. You know, chipped wood will do just as well to pressing, if not maybe better than that. If you need to keep some in there as far as putting more weed barrier down and then putting the mulch down to make it so that you don't have to do it all the time, I'm fine with that. But, I mean, it just strikes me as something it's unnecessary and it's an expense that's,
I'd say drop it to 1,500 as a transition year. and
Yes,
see how it
transitional
goes.
year.
So
I'm
that,
okay with that.
where was the motion?
I'll work with whatever.
That'll be
you decide.
10:05.
So that would be 3,500 on that.
Yes.
Okay.
10:05.
Yep, 10:05 on the second page where it says mulch around trees, put 1,500 instead of 3,000.
So why do we have accounts with the same account number?
Because this is
Di-
under Public Works Buildings Grounds,
Different department.
Division 1010, and the previous one was
Right.
Division
The
1005,
account
Public
number's
Works
the same
and
except for the
Highway.
leading number, which puts it in department.
Yeah.
You got 1005, which is public works, no budget.
Yeah, there's a
105,
lot of
which is-
10:05s and each department usually has a 10:05 because they have like supplies.
So what did we do?
Cut that mulch down to 1,500 as transitional year for 2020. And this budget still has money, because the trees are out of here, so it still has money to take care of things. Okay, so that's good. All right.
Any other questions for Steve?
Excuse me?
I said that I asked them, they got any other questions for you?
Nope.
I think so.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Do we have any other business, Catherine, or
No, we do not.
promotion?
Sorry, I
Adjourn.
started at 5 today.
Oh, we adjourned.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Steve.
Has anybody been down the St. Croix Road?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Progress.
Open for
had a couple cutbacks of weather, not progress.